literally the worst angle I've ever streamed at in my fucking life. But it is what it is. I can't really help it tonight, because I want to be outside. It's way too hot to be indoors. Way too fucking hot to be indoors. But, you know, that's okay. We're gonna struggle through. We're gonna struggle through. Hopefully, I've still got my lighter on me somewhere. Oh no. No! Okay, hold on. Motherfucker. I am so bad at this, y'all. I'm literally so bad at this. Okay, 1 second. I fucking hate living next to a train. Literally, I fucking hate it. Oh, there it is. Okay, cool. Sorry about that. Am I okay? Yes, I'm fine. I'm just pissed off. Oh, God. Oh, it's just gonna be one of those fucking nights, huh? It's gonna be one of those fucking nights. I spent like half an hour out here trying to make a thing that I could put my phone on so that I could see you guys easier and manipulate this a little easier, but it's not working out at all. Because of course it's not. Why would it? Why would it? Why would anything I do ever work out the way I want it to? Maybe if I... Maybe if I do that... Okay, if I do that, and do this... Do I end up with something even a little bit more functional? Because that would be nice. Even if it would just be slightly more functional, that would be fucking great. Okay. There we go. Holy mother of God. That took me fucking way too long. Way too fucking long. I will be so fucking goddamn happy when I have the money to just buy me some proper equipment. Because I really just need to get me one of those adjustable arms where it's like articulates at 3 different places and you just fasten it to a surface and then put your phone in it and then you just put it wherever you need it to be. Because that would make this shit way fucking easier than fucking rigging up hillbilly bullshit to put my phone on. Anyway, what's up, everybody? Where are you? Somewhere in the deep south, my friend. Somewhere in the deep south. Must suck? It does. It does indeed. It's like 80 degrees and it's nighttime. Humidity somewhere around 60%. So yeah, it sucks quite a bit. Whatever though. If you're from the South, eventually you just get used to the idea of it never being a nice night, you know, between the months of like, I don't know, July and September. Pretty much mid-June to mid-September, it just stays fucking swampy down here. The crickets are yapping to you? Yeah, that's kind of one of the reasons I wanted to stream out here, is honestly, so I could listen to the crickets yapping, because I actually do like the sounds of crickets quite a bit. Mostly what you're hearing right now, though, are katydids, actually. Hey, Phoebe, hanging in there? Big Gabe for life? Yes, I sure am. It's either a swamp or the Arctic at night. What, in the South? Primordial darkness. That ye all. I fucked up. Yeah, you fucked up, Merrick. You fucked up. So any reason not to move north to a less swamp-like environment? Yeah, I mean, basically, my family owns the land that I live on. It's not in my name just yet, but when my parents pass away eventually, I'll be inheriting this land. And it's been in the family since the 1940s, so it's kind of a rough thing to just kind of up and leave it, you know? Kind of feels contrary to what we would want to do. It's like, if you've got land, why would you up and leave it unless you've got guaranteed land somewhere else? Dork? I've been streaming for 7 minutes and 30 seconds, bro. What the fuck could you possibly be using to justify that? What makes me a dork? Because I would argue there's no bigger dork than somebody who is just like popping onto somebody's YouTube chat to call them a dork for no reason. Do you like the land since your family has had it for so long? Me and this land have a codependency. You can need something and be attached to something without necessarily liking something. And this land has many problems. That was dorky to say. Guess I'm a dork then. I hope you've been having a good month, Phoebes. This month has been rough for me. Yeah, this month has been pretty rough for me, I'm not going to lie either. I would kind of like to do something for Pride Month still, because it is technically Pride Month, and I would love to celebrate it in some way, but it's just, it seems like there have been so many more pressing things to focus on, you know? Like the All Kings Day protests happened, and then pretty much immediately after that, it wasn't even a week before the what is now being called the 12-day war, which I think is absurd, by the way. The idea that this ends today, I think that's silly. I mean, there's something I read earlier, right before I came on stream, where like 3 hours ago or something, Iran is already saying they just captured like 900 mercenaries or some shit. 900 Israeli spies / mercenaries. Kind of unclear as to which one Iran believes they were. But basically, Iran has captured a bunch of Israeli troops / agents. And that's going to be seen as a further escalation. Unless that's already been banged out as part of the agreement, that's going to be seen as a further escalation. Israel is going to launch some kind of covert attack to get those troops back, and we're going to be right in the same fucking place we were already. The only reason Trump is trying so fucking hard for this ceasefire shit is because he seems to fucking believe in his infinite narcissism and egoism, that him merely saying something will in fact make it true. When the fact of it is that he's dealing with someone in Netanyahu that may actually be more of an egotistical narcissist than he is. He's dealing with someone who actually will say, nah, I think I'll do what I want. Any thoughts on Zoran Wen? I don't know that much about Zoran yet, but I do know that he's talking about making some some government-owned supermarkets in New York City, basically, to combat the massive inflation of food and to combat kind of like he outright says it. And so I think he's a pretty base dude based on what I've seen so far, because he outright says we need to get the profit motive out of people's basic necessities, basically. And I 100% agree with him. I think that that's an incredibly base take for an American politician to have. He's an avowed socialist, you know, and this is not the first time America has ever elected a socialist, or an American city at the very least. Bernie Sanders, obviously, famously has been a democratic socialist for a really long time, and he started his political career out in Burlington, Vermont. So the idea that this is entirely new, not quite, but it is still very cool. Because New York City is a capitalist's worst, I mean, it's a capitalist's wet dream and a poor person's wet nightmare, or worst nightmare. God damn, those are two very similar fucking phrases that don't need to be that similar. You would be a better president, cooler for sure. I don't know about all that. I really would not gravitate to the kind of power the presidency comes with. I just feel like the presidency is a position for people who are, I don't know, a little less narrow-minded than I am. No, I wouldn't say I'm narrow-minded, but I'm definitely one of those people that can't focus in that many areas at once. I don't know. I just don't like the idea of having that much power. Have you seen that old clip where he was criticizing Biden for causing further warmongering between IP? He wasn't wrong, but what a hypocrite. But that's nothing new for Trump. Wet nightmare. I know. I'm an idiot. Listen, leave me alone, okay? No, I'm just kidding. That was a silly fucking fuck up. But whatever. It happens. In any case, yeah, no, that's nothing new for Trump. Trump loves to be a fucking hypocrite. Trump only gives a shit about what he claims to give a Trump only gives a shit about what he claims to give a shit about in the moment that he claims to give a shit about it, for the specific context of what he wants you to believe in that moment. Trump is a slippery fucking eel of a human being. Trump is a fucking, he's a liar by nature, and he's a fucking scammer by nature. He's a fucking manipulator by nature. So if he thinks that what you need to hear from him at that moment is that you're not going to get, that none of your tips are going to be from here on out, if that's what you need to hear, then that's what Trump is going to fucking tell you. And if you need to hear that Trump is going to be really friendly to the business environment, then that's what he'll tell you. Shout out, Phoebe. I came by one night and they let people be themselves on this channel. Get you a cup of coffee for being sweet, girl. Everyone is good to me, by the way. Oh, that's fine. I mean, I actually am a guh. So, you know, thank you. I appreciate that a lot. Thank you for the $4.99. That is really kind of you. And if anybody else wants to make sure that their comment gets read, or anybody else wants to make sure that they support the channel, and you want to thank me for our efforts here, right? Please feel free to send a super chat. We appreciate every single one of them, and I read them all, as long as there's nothing in there that would violate the terms of use. Where are you from? Good old Mississippi. Way down south in the land of traders, rattlesnakes and alligators, right away, right away, right away, right away. Also, I recommend Arctic Cool fans. Cheap, actually blow like air conditioner type air, just actually cold, not misting. Aren't those technically, those Arctic air fans, aren't they like swamp coolers basically? Because I will say, swamp coolers do not work that well where I'm at, because the humidity level in the air is so fucking high here that it's hard for a swamp cooler to be effective, because it's hard for it to evaporate the water effectively, but they do provide a minor benefit usually. Have you been outside all day? No. No, if I look extra red, it's because I'm sitting next to candlelight. Opinions on Trump? Well, I was kind of just talking about it. Let me relight my joint and we can go back into it. So, I think Trump is a kind of a mixed bag in some ways, but overwhelmingly negative president. There's a couple of things he's done every so often that I thought, no, well, that's not that bad. Like, actually what he said about Israel and Iran today was the most dismissive of Israel a president has been in a long time. Joe Biden was not even that dismissive of Israel. Trump literally let off a fucking F-bomb. Literally. Trump said fuck on national television in his response to this breaking of the ceasefire before it was even a few hours old. He basically said they've been fighting for so long, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. And I agree with him there. I don't know that I'm gonna agree with his strategy, because I get the feeling it's gonna be pretty fucking neoconservative. I really do believe that regime change is coming to Iran. So I don't think I'm gonna like the solution that he's gonna come up for that, but that is a pretty based observation, and he is right. They don't know what the fuck they're doing anymore. They're trapped in this kind of like endless conflict. Iran's got this like hateful government that has just kind of declared war on America and the Jewish people and the Jewish state as well, and then you've got Israel, which has not done so verbally, but has basically done the same thing to the Arab world, right? Israel has continuously antagonized the Arab world, all of their neighbors, constantly antagonizing them. And unless, they manage to form a friendship with one of them, then maybe things change a little bit. But these two countries have been fighting each other for so fucking long, they don't even know what they're doing anymore. So when it comes to things like that Trump says occasionally, I think every so often he ends up landing on the right place, which is nice. At least he says quite a bit more than Biden ever did. But how much is that just on account of Trump being less demented, As far as domestic policy, I think he's a fascist. I think it's pretty fucking obvious that Trump is a fucking fascist domestically. In fact, sorry, these fucking joints don't like to stay lit. Anyway, I think it's pretty obvious that Trump is a fascist domestically. These ICE raids prove it. His crackdown to the protests proves it. His unwillingness to work with Democratic members of the Congress, I think, is a sign of it. His unwillingness to even work within his own party, it seems like, I think is a clear sign of that. I think Trump's willingness to attempt a coup shows a really strong tendency towards authoritarianism. So yeah, I don't like Trump. I'm not a big fan of him. But you're not going to sit here and hear me screaming about how he's the worst president we've ever had either. Especially not when there's clearly, there's a perfectly fine Andrew Jackson sitting right there, Like, I'm sorry, but in a country where you've got such enigmatic figures as Andrew Jackson and James K. Polk and I'm trying to remember some of the other badly remembered presidents. Gerald Ford was pretty badly remembered. Hoover. Bro, Hoover was fucking hated, bro. Hated. So, when it comes to presidents of the United States, I think that you could do worse than Trump, but I don't think you could do that much worse, I think that he's right up there in terms of bad quality with Bush. I think he's right up there. I think it's a toss-up right now as to which one is worse. I think as of right now, you have to say Bush, because Trump hasn't gotten us into a forever war yet. But if what I believe to be true actually does come true, and he ends up continuing to strike Iran and continuing to participate in Israel's war against Iran, then he will have gotten us into another fucking endless conflict with ambiguous morality and modern fucking weapons. I'm not a bro, I'm a sis, but yes, it is nice to smoke with cool people in chat. I'm going to turn on what I like to call the monkey button to make sure that people are participating in a constructive way, because that's pretty important to the quality of a good stream. So, There we go. Dude, you're coughing your lungs out. Well, I mean, I don't know if you know. I don't know if you know this, but smoking actually does occasionally cause coughing. It's one of the sad bugs about smoking, you know. Monkey button engaged, 100%. Sometimes you got to do it to him. Sometimes you have no choice. What's up, Mel? See how much better quality everything became as soon as I hit the monkey button? Now we've got 206 people in here sitting and watching and chilling. And imagine how many of them are going to be commenting after going through the very basic fucking step of subscribing to the channel and waiting a few seconds. Literally, that's all you got to do. But it's going to weed out so many dumb people. It's going to weed out so many morons, so many bigots and weirdos. I hope you're close, because you're the only other intelligent person around MS. Also, not sure if you saw my weed comments, but no, but I can. YouTube actually has this really cool thing called channel activity, which allows me to look at everything you've sent in here, which is cool. Girl, what kind of joints? We won the Cannabis Cup and MS. I got you on the best, if you're a patient, of course. Well, I'm not a patient, so this joint is just one of those gas station THCA joints, but I am looking to get my medical card because I do qualify for one. Just on the basis of my autism alone, I would qualify for one, but I've also got chronic pain and other mental illnesses as well. I don't know exactly what. I just know that I'm a fucking crazy motherfucker that does some really inexplicable shit, for whom the only, like, sensible explanation is, well, that person probably has bipolar or borderline or some shit like that. I don't know. I don't believe in self-diagnosis, so I ain't gonna say. All I know is that it's worth exploring, you know, and that I've had to do a lot of work on myself to give myself kind of some self-control, you know. But with that all being said, I do qualify for a medical card. It's just a matter of having the money to get one, you know, at this point. But I would love to try some fucking nice-ass, medical quality Mississippi joints, especially from somebody who won the Cannabis Cup. That's actually really cool. OMG, I'm MS in Memphis. There's another progressive. Oh my god, girl, we are fucking... Not only are we not alone in this weird state that we share of Mississippi, not only are we not alone, but there are a shit ton of us. You know what the problem with progressives in Mississippi, Tennessee, and the rest of the Deep South is, Kelly? You want to be fucking for real about it? You want to reduce it down to any one thing. It's the fact that so many of us just look at ourselves as politically ineffective. We don't even want to talk about politics at work because we never know who an ally is going to be. And even if we do find a political ally, we just get in this mindset where we think we're the only ones. But the fact of it is, if you really talk to people about shit, you can find so much agreement on economic issues, especially. Like, most people I talk to, at least in my area, agree that universal healthcare, or single-payer healthcare, however you want to phrase it, would be a better system than private healthcare. Most people I talk to around here agree with me that more people should grow their own gardens and that more people should try to be as self-sufficient as possible. And that's one of those things that's like a leftist idea and a right-wing idea. Many people I know around here are, well, I'll put it this way, the organization that supplies the power that I use, the power that my county uses, comes from an electric cooperative. Literally. Comes from an electric cooperative. So a very socialist idea. Our electric company is voted in. Yes, I'm not kidding. The electric company in the county I live in is a cooperative. So if they fucking fuck up, if their rates get too high or whatever the fuck, if we think there's mismanagement, the county theory come together and vote the fucking board members out. The problem with progressivism in the Deep South, as far as I can tell, is a lack of engagement. If we can fix that lack of engagement, if we can get other Southern leftists engaged, then we fix that problem, and we can make serious fucking change down here. I want to remind everybody at this point, there are 331 people in here, and I want every single one of them to know that the South produced two of the hardest core leftist icons that have ever lived. Huey Newton and Huey Long. Look up the two Hueys, read about them, read about their story, read about how they came to their ideology, and get back to me. The South is more than capable of producing a leftist movement. Can you delete my email if I let you get it for card? Oh, yes. Yes, I can do that. Actually, you know what, Kelly? Don't post your email in here. Add my Discord. Add my Discord. It is on my channel. And if you add my Discord, you can just send it in DMs and then it won't matter. I don't think it even let you send your email. Yeah, see, I don't think it even let you send it. I don't think it even let you send it. Even let you send it. Why is that word? Like, that sentence is throwing me for a loop. Am I saying that correctly? I don't think YouTube chat allowed you to send it. There we go. Yes. Okay. I've said it correctly now. Yeah, no, if you want to do that, that's totally fine. Yeah. Bro, it sounds hot outside where you are. Stink nose. Stink nose. Yeah, no, it sounds hot out here because it is fucking hot out here. But yeah, I wish more people would understand that the South is not some place that's exclusively dominated by fucking conservatives. The South is not some place. The South is ruled by conservatives. That doesn't mean that that's the fucking voting base. I mean, it's not like, here, think about this, Kelly. Trump won with pretty comfortable margins in the South, but he didn't win 100%. I think even in Mississippi, it was just like 75% or some shit like that. And that's despite the fact that a shit ton of left-wing people in the Deep South don't even vote because they look at themselves as totally disenfranchised. I'm a Mississippi too. Hey, chat. Yeah, I attract a lot of Mississippians. I don't know if it's my manner of speech. I don't imagine it is because I don't sound like I'm from Mississippi, you know. Because I moved to Missouri when my parents got divorced when I was 14. So I ended up taking on that accent because I used to get bullied for having a Mississippi accent. But I think, you know, I think the astute ear can probably pick up little fragments of the South and my manner of speech. He lost in a lot of the cities, i.e., where more people who interact with different groups of people regularly are. I mean, yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah, I mean, Trump is not really that popular amongst people with a super wide range of experiences and shit. Now, there are people for whom that is true that still like Trump. Some of them like him out of self-interest. Some of them like him because he's just a crazy kind of firebrand type figure, even if ultimately he represents the status quo just as much as anybody else does. A lot of people perceive him as this kind of alternative thing, you know, all that drain the swamp rhetoric and shit. And so there are some people who've had interesting lives and have encountered a lot of people and have traveled widely or encounter a lot of different types of people every day. There are people like that end up being Trump supporters, but there's way less of them because the more people you know, the more likely you are to know and love someone who is deeply affected by bad Republican policy in one way or another. I have a dead combat vet husband, though, so I kind of see my right to vote a little different. Well, yeah, no, 100%. That's fucked up. What do you think of the Texas politicians? I don't know that much about Texas's politicians in particular. I do know that I don't like Governor Greg Abbott. I do know that we could do with less of his ass, but whatever. If you related to Brandy, you related to Rafi. What's going on? We're all Bates out of Macomb, Brookhaven, and Magnolia. Interesting. I do not live in that area, but that area is kind of familiar to me because I used to date somebody from down there. What are your economic positions? What's your dream system? Ooh, man, that's a great question. By the way, there's 323 people in here. If you guys could hit the like button, that would be super helpful and super great and would show me that you guys are liking what I'm putting out and you guys are liking the conversation we're having. And feel free to ask any questions you want in the chat as well. So yeah, What is my favorite economic system? What is my dream system? Hold on 1 second. I've got two answers for this, right? Well, I guess really I've only got one answer for the dream system thing. There's a system that I think would work to get us through until we could build the dream system. And then there's the dream system. I think the dream system is some sort of social credit-based, resource-based economy where it is not necessarily, it's not necessarily the work, quote unquote, that you do that is in service to other people that gains you points. I mean, you do gain points for it, but you also gain points for being a kind person, for being a person who creates, right? Creates art in some way. So you actually get more points the more you engage with other people in a way that's creatively giving, in a way that's interesting to human sensibilities. And I think that will be something we'll have to get used to the idea of as AI takes over more and more of these jobs, right? Right now, we are already looking at an economy where it is already hard to justify a lot of people's jobs because AI has gotten better than human beings when it comes to a lot of these positions, right? I mean, I used to work a job. When I worked at Taco Bell, I used to work a dead job. I literally had to get moved to mostly drive-through and mostly backups because when I started at Taco Bell, I at first worked the back. They tried me there for a couple nights. I didn't really like it, so they tried me on front randomly, and I loved it. I was really good at it, and so I was usually up there right up until word came down that they were getting rid of the host position. Basically, they were getting rid of the person who would be taking care of the lobby, and that would be their main task. And they were going to be replacing that person with kiosks, literally. So I used to work a job that has been killed by AI. They still have somebody that works, during the day there to clean up the lobby and people and shit. But that person is supposed to instruct people on using the kiosk and take their cash if they have to pay cash. But they are not to be taking orders. What is your stance on AI? Do you think it will become a conflict in workplaces and fake internet drama? Well, it's already become that. I mean, we've already gotten to the place where it's kind of making it difficult in certain workplaces, right? AI is already making certain people's job kind of like unfeasible because it's getting cheaper and cheaper to have an AI do something that people used to do. I think the first front we're going to see of this, by the way, are soundtrack designers and graphic designers for lower quality, medium quality type of productions. I think that as this AI technology gets bigger and better, we're going to see less and less of that being an employment sector for human beings. Because AI will get to the point where through prompting, you can get a professional level thing that you might have had to pay a couple of $1,000s to a graphics firm, right? You can get that for a fucking $1,000 a month subscription to one of these services that's a corporate service that provides this sort of AI generation. And at that point, I mean, like, that wipe out thousands of people's jobs overnight as soon as that technology becomes available in the corporate world, right? So yeah, it's definitely going to disrupt workplaces. That's why I advocate for something like a resource-based economy. At the very least, I advocate for a UBI, for an economy that is ready and prepared for the day when most human beings don't need to work. Because that's we are quickly approaching that time. I'm around Hattiesburg, Meridian right now, but Tupelo, home. I fucking hate it. The more down south you go, LOL. Can't say specific due to can a contract, but around here. Yeah, no, 100%. I wouldn't expect you to be super personal about where you're at anyway, because I'm not going to say where I'm at, at least not in chat or on stream. But I will say this much. Tupelo is a town that I know the name of, and I know where that's at, and it's not that far away. I mean, it's not like I could drive over there on a lark, but it's not so far away that it'd be like going to Hattiesburg from where I'm at. There's too much liability to AI versus humans. The risk for CEOs would be astonishing because there would be no middleman to sue. You're tripping because every lawsuit of AI was the only one. I don't know exactly what you're trying to say there at the end, But no, it doesn't matter what kind of problems you're seeing crop up with this, what you think is going to happen with this. AI is coming. You would be way better off getting ready for the eventuality of its existence and the eventuality of its omnipresence. Then you're way better off getting ready for that than you are sitting around denying that it's going to be that way. Because trust me, they are going to figure their way out through those problems. Money is the driver, my friend. Money is the driver in America. If anybody wants to argue with that, they can try, but money is the fucking mover. That's what moves things in America. So if it becomes cheaper to hire an AI, you're going to hire the AI. And as an example of that, I point you towards all of the manufacturing jobs that are now done exclusively by robots. I mean, look at a Tesla factory. That motherfucker is basically mostly robot. Honestly, I think you're making excuses for the unemployed. I think you haven't been listening if that's what you think I'm doing. Just honestly, I'm not even trying to throw shade. I'm just saying I don't think you've been listening very well if you think that that's the idea. No. I'm saying that there's going to come a time when like 70% of people are just not able to find a job because there just are not jobs out there for them. Because it's eventually going to become cheaper to hire an AI to do these things. That's just how capitalism works. So unless we overthrow capitalism before then, we're eventually going to get to a system where they have to introduce some kind of market socialism at the very least. Eventually, they're going to have to figure out some way to appropriate to appropriate taxes on consumption or taxes on capital gains or something. They're gonna have to figure out some way to fucking gather up enough tax revenue to pay for people to continue to live. And they're probably going to have to nationalize housing at the same time, because the idea that government funds can be endlessly tied up in something that's just going to continuously inflate is pretty unsustainable. So we're going to have to nationalize housing, and we're going to have to get very, very, very used to the idea. Rich people are. We won't. Regular ass working class people, we ain't got much to worry about. But rich people are going to have to get used to the idea of a 2% capital gains tax or something like that, or a 3.5% capital gains tax, something like that, to fund the existence of their lifestyle. Because their fucking lifestyle exists because we spend money. We, as in the working class and the consuming class, spend and make the money that enables them to be rich, right? They are fundamentally just money movers. That, like, people at a certain level of wealth are not working anymore. They're just staying informed and making money decisions. That's not work. You updating your 401k in your off time when you're at home, you would not call that work. So why do we call it work when it's a CEO? Why do we call it work when it's a big investor? You know, I don't think that's right. How do you account for the fact that many people hate AI, not to mention the huge Disney/Universal lawsuit against Midjourney? I think that it's growing pains, honestly. I think that a lot of people hate AI right now because there's a lot of AI slop being made. There's a lot of people who don't really know that well how to use AI. They haven't spent that much time fucking with it, and so they're pretty bad at using it. And what they produce is not that worth watching, not that worth looking at. And as a result of that, I think a lot of people have, maybe they're misjudging AI. But I also think it's one of those things that, once again, Merrick, I mean, you know this better than anybody, money is the biggest driver in America, not the will of the people, not the will of the public, or any of these lofty, noble ideas that our politicians go around talking about at stump speeches. That's not what rules America. What rules America is money. So it doesn't matter how many people fucking hate it. These companies will look at that as a challenge. They will say, let's figure out how to make this so inconspicuous that nobody even knows that it's involved. So maybe there still will be a human being, right? Maybe there still will be a human being that takes your order and shit, right? But it's probably going to be a work from home position from now on. Not from now on, but when it gets to the point where they can just have a robotic arm or a self-serve system in the drive-thru, where there's like two people working in the restaurant. One of them is cleaning up and the other is basically just quality checking the food and putting it out in a little drawer and sliding it out, right? Once it gets to that point, that drive-through order taker job is just going to be a call center job or a work from home job. Probably a work from home job, because that way companies don't have to pay for these fucking office spaces. I mean, it's going to happen. And in a case like that, I do think we're going to see more AI incorporated as a part of that business model, if that happens. Maybe if Peter was attractive and intelligent. Oh, thank you, Kelly. You think I'm attractive. That was weird. I'm sorry. You have to forgive me. Do you believe that it is okay for this huge transgender movement we have had for what? For children in our country? Who the fuck? Where can I ask you guys where you're getting this idea? Genuinely? Where the fuck are you getting this idea that there is some movement to trans your kids? Because that shit blows my mind. The fact that there's a significant chunk of Americans who actually believe that trans people want to make everybody's kids trans is fucking mind-boggling to me. People wasting their lives just to hate. Yeah, no, people literally spending a minute, literally people that have to subscribe just to comment, and then they fucking wait an entire ass minute, right? A whole ass minute that they wait just to be able to comment some bullshit. A lot of times it's bullshit that gets ignored too. That's the fucking really sad thing about it. I am gonna turn it to a 5-minute sub mode though, because that'll probably reduce even more of the dumbasses. That certainly sounds like something transphobic people spread to make excuses to explain that transgender people are not good. Yeah, Hope, it 100% is. It's what Jewish people would call blood libel. If I were a Jewish person and they were making a similar accusation, it's what would be called blood libel. Yeah, it's literally anti-trans blood libel. It's trans people are corrupting your children. And functionally, it's no different from anti-Semitic people who say the Jews are corrupting your children. The Jews kidnap children at night, or whatever the fuck crazy racists have to say about Jews. Oh, when she changed it, it deleted everything I typed. I was saying I ain't having no disrespect. Not MS, not on YouTube, not nowhere. No, I love your fury, Kelly. So I hate to tell you someone fix those machines. Yeah, but that's the thing. One person can program and fix 20 different machines distributed across an entire city. Right, Will? Right? One person can program and fix 20 machines all sitting around a city as far as just their everyday maintenance. Obviously, it's going to take a team of people to develop these technologies, right? But you're talking about technologies that each of them might replace 1 or 2 jobs on their own, even if it's just one job they're replacing. So that one machine can be copied a bunch of times and placed at a bunch of different places in one big district area, and you've only got like 2 or 3 maintenance people, where before you had an army of like 100 people, you know? It's the scalability of the thing that makes it so inevitable. Literal videos. I never said I hate trans, but there's a movement going on in our schools, and I want to be clear, I did not say it was trans. I think it's mainly the government. Bro, James, talking about trans people is not indoctrinating kids into being trans. Talking about trans people in the classroom is part of a fucking well-rounded education, because trans people exist. We're out here, you know? We're out here, and it would be better if people knew about us sooner rather than later. AI could take a lot. AI could take a lot command center jobs. Last job had 2 servers powerful to service 800 plus alarm system in America for banks. EU has 3,000. Yeah, I mean, that's the fucking thing. AI can take over shit tons of jobs. So customer service jobs are the jobs I think about, because I've thought about it a million times when I'm working these types of jobs, about how easily they would be replaced. But every kind of job is on the chopping block for AI. AI will come for us all, because eventually, the only limit's going to be like, does there exist an interface by which an AI can interact with this thing? So eventually it might just get to where like the only jobs that exist are things that literally require human hands. I don't even know what kind of jobs those would be. Almost every job I can think of can be eventually automated away. And my evidence, by the way, part of my evidence for the coming automation crisis that's happening is the fact that that has been the trend over the last 200 years, is despite people's occasional complaints about it, despite people's protests against it, despite the wish of some people not to go there, technology continues to adapt, continues to advance, and every advance in technology kills jobs. Literally, every single one. Every single time there has been an advance in technology, it has killed jobs and created new ones. That's how the fucking economy works. But this is one of these things that's like not... It's like the Industrial Revolution in terms of the fact that continuous technological progress is happening and it's cascading and building on earlier progresses and shit. But it's not like the Industrial Revolution in the fact that this revolution that's happening right now, the automation revolution, will not end until every single fucking job is automated. And at that point, it literally ceases to make any fucking sense to even try in a fucking attempt to hold up the farce of people getting a factory job and needing to have some kind of back-breaking labor job that they do in order to justify their existence. Like, at that point, you're literally just saying, well, I don't think humans deserve to live unless they're breaking their back on the fucking wheel all day. I don't think human beings deserve to live unless they're huffing fucking fumes all day and getting dirty and getting all sweaty and fucked up. I don't think humans deserve to live if they're not exploiting themselves for other people's gain, is basically what you're saying at that point. If you cannot imagine a society that eventually moves away from the idea of your labor being necessary to justify your existence, then I'm sorry, you're just not seeing the writing on the wall. I genuinely wonder if the people who believe in trans indoctrination disregard religious/Christian indoctrination as being a First Amendment right. A lot of them do. A lot of them justify their own indoctrination of their children by saying, well, it's my First Amendment right to have whatever fucking religion I want. Fuck you, bitch. But the fucking thing is, it's our First Amendment right to teach our kids whatever the fuck we please about trans people. If we want to teach them that trans people are perfectly valid and that, like, what it means to be trans and shit, that is our fucking prerogative. You don't get to tell another parent what they can and cannot inform their child about. Can AI create surplus value? 100%. AI is literally creating surplus value right now in certain applications. What's really not, like these AI models, like the fucking language models right now are not profitable. No, the generative AI is not a profitable AI model yet. But when it comes to like AI chatbots and shit that are just, that aren't generative, but that just do text shit, or AI assistants and things like that, when it comes to that kind of AI, that kind of machine learning, that definitely already generates surplus value because it's incorporated in so many different ways. I waited 10 minutes to tell you this. Well, we don't have a 10-minute timer. We only have a 5-minute timer, I'm pretty sure. It's been my name my whole life, LOL, before MGK was a thing. My gamer type. Linoscope? Little no scope. Oh, okay. That's cool. Kells. Who else wanted Kells fucking nails in these coffins as soft as cotton nail? Kill shot, I will not fail. I'm with the doc still, but this idiot's boss pops pills and tells me got skills. But Kells, the day you put out a hits, the day Diddy admits that they put the hit out that got pot killed, huh? You know what song I wish I still knew? Like I Ain't by Tech 9. I actually used to live pretty close to where Tech 9 is from. God allows murder, but you don't see people just going around and killing people left and right. That shows that not everything God allows is okay. I cannot stand preachers who say that it is okay to be gay, or says because you're gay you won't go to heaven. That is simply not true. I mean, God isn't cool with murder. That's the thing. God fucking explicitly says, according to the Bible, that he's not about murder, right? That's the fucking thing. The admonishments against homosexuality in the Bible are a hell of a lot weaker than the admonishments against things like murder and rape and well, not rape, honestly, but murder, at the very least, theft, lust. There's a whole bunch of things that are called out specifically by the Ten Commandments and by other parts of Scripture by Jesus as, you know, like as a prophet later in life or whatever. But being gay is not among them. You know, Jesus never talked about being gay. So all we know about homosexuality, or all we think we know about homosexuality from the Bible, is based on what I understand to be a commonly mistranslated passage that says in the King James Version, "Thou shalt not sleep with man, thou shalt not lay with man as one lays with woman, for that is an abomination." Or "Thou shalt not let a man lie with a man as he would with a woman," something like that. But from what I understand, the correct translation is actually something closer to "Thou shalt not let a man lay with a boy the way he would with a woman." And so it's actually an admonition against pedophilia, not homosexuality. Well, he's a prophet as well. Well, I mean, I don't believe that Jesus Christ was one person that actually was divine. I'm not a Christian, but I'm just saying, within the context of Christianity, he is also a prophet. He is the Son of Man and the Son of God, but he is also a prophet. He also explicitly says that a man shall not sleep with man. No, that is Leviticus, actually. Leviticus says man shall not lie with a man as one lies with a woman. That is an abomination. That is Leviticus, which is Old Testament, which you, my friend, as a Christian, should not look at as binding law, but rather as context to explain the Gospels. That's what the Old Testament is to you. It's not a book of laws. You aren't Jewish. Can someone tell James he's getting no one into heaven, bitching at them about going to hell? Please, Jesus was not that girl. No, I know. I know that, Kelly. That's the fucking thing. I got money to spend on James' ass. Well, keep it rolling, Kelly. We love you guys. I love you guys. Anybody who wants to super chat, if you feel like I haven't read your chat for whatever reason, I'm not ignoring anybody's chat, but I sometimes do miss them, and super chatting is a great way to make sure your message gets read, because I read every single one as long as it doesn't violate terms of service. With that being said, it's also a great way to support the channel if you like what we're doing here and you like the conversations that we try and foster here. So, you know, just know that those are open. I also have memberships open, and if anybody signs up for those, once we get enough memberships, we will have members-only chats, which will be the highest quality chats we have had thus yet. And I will schedule those, and I will stick to that schedule like my ass is chained to it, because those are going to be great. I can already tell that they're going to be fantastic. So with all that self-pimping out of the way, let me see here. Yeah, no, the idea that people can evangelize other people into Christianity is kind of a false premise, but it's supposed to be that way. The Christian church literally does that on purpose. It's purposeful, right? It's not some mistake. It's not some crazy thing that you're just now noticing. It's on purpose. What James is engaging in is not meant to draw me into Christianity. It's meant to draw him in closer. It's meant to foster his bond. It's meant to strengthen his relationship with the church. It's not meant to draw me into the church. Now, James probably doesn't realize that. James probably thinks that his pastors and his religious leaders have set him out into the world to spread the gospel. He probably thinks that the intention of that is to convert other people. But no, that's just a silly premise, right? Nobody comes to religion because they were preached at about it all day. People come to religion because they have some, I mean, in the Western world, I'm sure it's different in third world countries and shit like that, where people are probably willing to go with whatever religion helps them out at that moment, right? But, or in a place where they kind of enforce a certain religion on you, right? But in a Western country with broad freedom of religion and shit like that, the only reason somebody falls into Christianity like a fucking black hole is through some tragedy in their lives, some fuck up, some tragedy, some big thing that they want penance for in some way, and they find Christianity as their outlet for that, right? Otherwise, you don't really end up in Christianity unless you're raised in it, right? You really don't, because like nobody that is completely rational about life and has like a scientific worldview wakes up one day and decides, you know what, that crazy Bronze Age set of shepherd myths from way back when, I think that shit actually has some truth to it. You know what I mean? It is not mistranslated. Look up how they translated the Bible and also look at all the tests they had to do. The new translation did not come around until the trans and gay movement as a cornerstone. Yeah, no, that's just bullshit. I'm sorry, that's just bullshit. Well, I'm not just talking about biblical scholars that have said this. I'm talking about rabbinical scholars. I'm talking about even some Islamic scholars. Like, there is a pretty wide consensus among Christians who don't have a narrative reason for opposing queer people that the Bible is not directly opposed to homosexuality. It's so intriguing that the pride flag is seen as forcing beliefs onto children, but any sports team flag is not in any way similar. Not saying sports flags aren't okay. Yeah, that's the thing. If a sports flag is not convinced, like you can have a Raiders flag in your kid's room, and it's not going to turn them into a Raider. You know, you can have a Steelers flag in your room. I don't know why you would, but you could, in theory, have a Steelers flag in your room. It's not going to turn your kid into a Steelers, you know? He's not going to, like, come home one day with a football jersey on and a full set of pads and a big old helmet, you know? Like, it's not just, he's not going to wake up with that shit on one day. It's ridiculous. The idea that people don't understand how fucking symbols work. I think a lot of times, and two, I think a lot of people that are themselves deeply affected by symbolism and shit, I think that they assume that every other human being on the planet is the same way, and so they think, oh my god, if you have a trans pride flag around, that means kids are going to be convinced to be trans because their dumbass is the type of person that is convinced on the basis of the symbols around them. I mean, keep in mind, we're mostly talking about a group of people that voted for a dude who one of the fundamental symbols of his campaign was the rodent he wears on his head in silhouette. You know what I mean? We're talking about a group of people who treat the MAGA hat like it's a sacred object. Like we're talking about a group of people that literally were worshiping a golden idol of their politician at the RNC a few years back. These are not sane, rational people by and large. Not the true dyed-in-the-wool kind of like MAGA hat wearing Republicans, you know. Now there is, I think, a contingent of people who voted for Trump that are not necessarily like that, and I think that we still need to reach out to people on the right as a result of not just that contingent existing, but also just the fact that, you know, ultimately any mass movement in America is going to have to include some conservatives, right? It's only right, you know. They exist in this country as well, even if I don't think that they're necessarily a majority or anything close. Their perspective needs to be considered. You know, compromises, I think, need to be made where appropriate. But the American people need taken care of, and that's going to mean doing some things that the conservatives are not going to like very much. Stop keeping people out of heaven, James. Me and Phoebe clearly been to Vacation Bible School. We've been to smoke that at. I ain't never been to Vacation Bible School, but I was raised Pentecostal, and as a result have a very deep knowledge of the Bible. Time to meet God. That was funny. I'm not bitching at no one. I'm pretty sure I said I love everybody, and that I also say to preachers who say gays can't get into heaven isn't true. I'm being badgered for having a factual and considerate. I'm not badgering you. I mean, you have to understand, people in the chat are going to badger. That's what people in the chat do, you know? How do you account for so much of the fact that so much of the Bible is repurposed literature from other mythology? Yeah, I'm interested to hear if James has an answer for that as well, because that's something I don't ever think to bring it up. But yeah, if you look at the Bible and the stories in it, There are mirrors for every story in the Bible. There's a mirror in some other Middle Eastern mythology. It's just the sad fucking truth of it. And the reason for that is because I hate to fucking tell you guys this, but Christianity is not a divinely inspired religion. Big shocker for all the atheists out there, I know. Yeah. No, but seriously, Christianity is not a divinely inspired religion. It's a human-inspired religion. It's a religion based on Judaism, which is a religion based on a bunch of much more ancient Middle Eastern religions, like Zoroastrianism and like ancient precursors to Judaism, Samaritanism. There's a number of different beliefs, some of which were polytheistic, some of which were what's the word for it? There's this word for a theistic belief where you believe in many gods but only worship one. That's part of the way that Judaism came about. So we're talking about a religion that has a very clearly has a very clear evolutionary path, right? It's very easy to see how Christianity came from one and went to the next and came to the next and went on and on throughout the ages, right? I think people will have to move to an advanced, primitive life. Taking care of the earth and art forms will be a job to the few capable. There's a chance of an industrial rebel. I'm not sure what exactly you're trying to say there, but don't like just leave. That's what I'm always saying too. TNT. Like, I don't get why people feel like they need to sit in here if they're not having a good time. I understand that. This place is not for everybody, you know? I try to genuinely provide a welcoming environment to anybody that's not coming at me totally sideways. But if somebody wants to be a piece of shit in here, I ain't, I'm not going to coddle them. And if somebody's not having a good time, I'm also not going to make them stay when, their mental health or whatever would be better if they just went and found something else to do. I don't have anybody change the content, nor would I want to, But yeah, especially when people realize that the amount of resources is used to make our everyday lives. I mean, really, the amount of resources used to make our everyday lives possible is pretty minuscule in comparison to the amount of resources used to make the rich and their lives possible, right? The amount of resources that are expended to keep the upper 1% afloat is fucking insane and absurd when you compare it to what just the people need. I genuinely think that we could come up with a somewhat non-impactful way of life that mostly recycles, mines very little, extracts very little, and makes things to last and everything else. I think we could come up with a society like that. I think we could set ourselves on that track. I believe we're capable of it. I genuinely do. But it's going to take getting rid of the capitalist. It takes getting rid of the bourgeoisie. It takes getting rid of this massive leeching force at the top of society, right? It takes getting rid of this group of people who take everything for themselves, as much as they can for themselves, whose entire existence is predicated on them taking as much as they possibly can for themselves. As if you can get rid of those people and that system that allows those people to exist and have so much power, then you can get rid of the idea that we have to expend, millions of pounds of coal every year. Because if the fucking rich people that have these big mansions and shit are now required to give that up for the public good, and if that shit is kept on a much more limited power schedule and shit to keep it open as a venue or whatever the fuck ends up being used with it, but with a more egalitarian system that did not allow for this super overpowered element of society that just has massive fucking riches and is required to redistribute any of it, with the elimination of that class of people, you would start to see a genuine improvement in people's happiness and their quality of life, etc. Are all religions that dominate in an area forced onto most of the people in the area similar to Christianity? Not Christian blaming nor hating. Although you could be, with what you're talking about, you would be perfectly valid for it because it's one of the fucked up things about Christianity. There's a train about to pass by. So here in a second, I'm probably going to have to, yep. Here in a minute, I'm going to plug my ears, and you guys are just going to have to listen to the train. Whoa! Almost fell backwards. Man, the lights on those things are fucking incredible, bro. The lights on those things are fucking insane. I genuinely wonder if they use like landing lights or something on trains, because it is just absurd the amount of light a train is able to put out. I wish you could get that kind of light for your car, bro. Like, now, on the one hand, I don't, because it would blind everybody on the road. There's a reason why train tracks are not always that close to roads, you know? There's a reason why they try to separate them with some trees and shit, at the very least. God damn it. What is this fucking bug that refuses to leave my goddamn eye alone? Of all fucking places to be buzzing around endlessly. So you're just ignoring the fact that I said I don't agree with pastors who have hate speech and say certain people. Listen, James, I haven't ignored that at all. I feel like our conversation has gotten pretty fucking off field, you know? And I don't, like, in a minute I'm just going to scroll up because I don't know where the fuck we're at even anymore. Virgin birth, the great flood, the concept of hell, original sin, baptismal ceremonies, various holidays. Yeah, no, 100%. Christianity stole immensely from a bunch of different religions. I know many other things Christians like to spread. Oh, yes, they do. Do they not? If you know, you know. Yep. You know, if you actually give it. Yeah, 100%. How was I being rude, Kelly? What did I say specifically? Oh, man. People are fighting in my chat. I love it. My cousin Snoop showed me how to smoke. That's who I follow. What? The actual Snoop? The actual Snoop, though. You can go into someone's chat who's clearly very kind and intelligent and just immediately start quoting Bible hell verses rather than extending any genuine care. Yeah, I mean, that is fundamentally the problem, James. Why, if you're just trying to have a genuine conversation and you're just trying to be a kind, loving Christian, why is the first thing that you say in here related to hell? Why is that the verse that you choose to quote? Why not, why not the story of the adulteress? Why not the story of Jesus knocking out the moneylenders out of the temple, right? There's a bunch of different Bible verses that I can think of that are a great way to start a conversation and maybe even produce some interesting questions. But the ones about hellfire and brimstone are really kind of the most scary fucking verses in the Bible, in my opinion. There are a few genders in Judaism. Go Browns! Fuck yeah, I love that. See, this is why I love Jewish people. But the rainbow stands for sexual identity, and showing that to children, I'm not sure that works well comparing to sports team flags. Yeah, but it doesn't have, like, okay, it has to do with sexual identity, but sexual identity is usually first expressed as romantic identity. And that's what it is too, right? People like to, it's funny, people will accuse gay people of making it all about sex, but I feel like that's what cisgender and straight people do when they assume that that's all that's indicated by someone having a fucking gay pride flag. Someone being gay doesn't just mean that they like to fuck men and they are themselves a man. It means they are themselves a man who likes to date other men as well. And dating, like the concept of a relationship, is something, I mean, like babies get shown that. Like babies that have parents that are together see that shit. Kids see that shit all day growing up. Like if they're in a functional household, they're going to see loving people loving on each other. And like that type of affirmation and affection is what's also implied by the queer flag. So I don't like the fucking, I really fucking dislike this idea that because sexuality is discussed and implied as part of the discussion when it comes to gay people, that that's all that it's about, or that that's all the pride flag represents, when in fact it represents a romantic attraction more than anything. I am badgering. I love that, Kelly. That is good. I'm glad you're badgering. Badgering is cool. Love you, James. Sorry, love you. I was mean. Sorry. What the fuck? What's going on? $1.99 for being mean to James. I just like Jesus a lot, and he's super misrepresenting him. But also, sorry that was mean. That's why you pray to Jesus, not me. Well, 100%, Kelly. You've got a real sense of self-awareness about you. You know, that's a cool trait. Keep that up. There might be a bit of a lag going on. For sake of fairness, read through some of James' most recent chats. Okay, I will. Let me see. How is I being rude, Kelly? What did I say specifically? Let me see. What verse did I say, and when did I say anything damning to anyone? There it is, friends, the ugly truth. I don't know what I said. All other mythologies, I guess, you look at the records came after the death of Jesus and copied his message. Look up the dates and you will see that. But that's not true, James. That's literally not true. You can fucking look up. Like, James is said to have died like 2,025 years ago, right? Right? Anno Domini, the year of our Lord, you know? So Jesus is, like according to Western tradition, Jesus died right around 2,000 years ago, right? Well, the Epic of Gilgamesh is like 4,000 years old. And the Epic of Gilgamesh contains elements of Jesus' story. Some of the earliest stories in humanity, in fact, predate Jesus, some of them by a couple of thousand years, some of them by a few hundred, and a lot of them feature elements that we would later see reflected in Christianity and in Judaism. All other mythologies came after Jesus. All right. I mean, you're wrong, but that's a unique stance. That is a unique stance. Not all other mythologies, but the ones that mimic Jesus' death all came after his death, to be specific. No, that's just not true. That's just not true. The virgin birth of Horethra, the Great Flood, and Gilgamesh of Lycanthro and Ymir, the sacrifice of Odin and Balder all predate Jesus in the Bible, not to mention the concept of chaos. Yeah. There you go. Chaos Kampf. That concept has been in humanity since times immemorial. Oh, yeah. The Great Flood could be a representation of Noah and the Ark. I mean, yeah, that's what Christians will say, right? But the point that people are bringing up when they say that when they say that most other ancient religions feature a Great Flood myth, what they're basically saying is that why would we take, if all of them feature it, why do we assume the narrative of any specific one of them is the correct one? But James, you realize all of this is moot, right? Because the Bible describes a very specific process for the way the earth was created, and we know the earth was not created like that. So do you believe that the Bible is all just metaphorical? I'm in a homosexual relationship with Jesus Christ. That is pretty cool. I hope Jesus gives good blowjobs. You're missing my point. The Great Flood existed as a concept long before Jesus was even conceived as a concept. Yeah, exactly. What is your favorite food from a culture? Ooh, this is a hard one. Man, this is a hard one. Favorite food from a culture. I'm assuming you're talking about not like white people food or soul food. You're not talking about American food. You're talking about shit from outside of America. Probably chicken korma, I would say. Quite a big chicken korma enjoyer, so probably chicken korma. The Great Flood never happened. Yeah, no, like it didn't. And the reason why every myth, the reason why almost every fucking religious myth on this planet contains references to a great flood. By the way, the reason for that comes down to the fact that floods happen in pretty much every fucking culture that is like in the early days of humanity. We really couldn't just set up out in the desert. Hell, in the earliest days of humanity and for the vast majority of our existence, we couldn't even set up in a specific place. Human beings were nomadic. They would range widely too. They would range incredibly widely, going from place to place. Some of them were shepherds, some of them were hunter-gatherers, etc., etc. But it really wasn't until about 12,000, maybe 14,000 years ago that human beings began to settle in specific places and grow crops, which is really the thing that enabled us, right, to settle down in a specific place. It was figuring out that all of these places where we allowed our food stores to set over the course of a year or something like that would grow new plants. And it didn't take many cycles of that, probably only took one human lifetime before agriculture was established, once it was discovered, right? Kind of crazy to think about, right? That it might have only taken like 80 years to get that established, right? But the idea is once one group of people figured out, like, hey, we've come back to this spot every year for the last 10 years, and every year for the last 10 years, when we come back to this spot, there's this specific plant growing in this spot where we tried to store this food over the course of the year. And it's all growing out of this mountain now, in addition to a bunch more of it. And so some intelligent ape amongst that group decided, you know what? I'm going to try and figure out what part of this actually grows the plant, and agriculture was born, and from that point we start domesticating things, and I don't know. I don't remember what my point was, but yeah, aren't human beings fascinating? Every advertisement geared towards straight men have sexualized females. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, honestly, a lot of those commercials nowadays too are being made to appeal not just to straight guys, but also to bi women. But yeah, like female sexuality sells. It's just how it is. So do you believe in any religion or higher power? Sorry, this is my first time watching. Just followed. Also, what do you think happens when we die? Wonder if it's like a DMT trip before you go. Well, I have had a DMT trip, and while I was in that DMT trip, for the first 5 minutes, I did feel like I was dying. So I do think that that is what happens. I do think that you go through a DMT trip, and I think some people go through that DMT trip and then get woken up. They come back to life through the medical intervention of their doctors or whatever. And I think that is probably the origin of a lot of weird ideas, when it comes to sorry, I had to read some notifications. But when it comes to the idea that you might be responsible for the afterlife, I think that that's a good possibility, because human perceptions are a very strange thing, right? Human perceptions are incredibly weird. The human brain is an incredibly strange thing, right? And so think about this, right? Because time is a concept, because it's a feeling, effectively, because it's a feeling in the minds of human beings, you could die, and as long as you died under the right conditions, where you were left with an intact brain, that you were going through that process of dying, you could, in theory, have a trip that is actually only like 5 minutes long as your body starts to shut down, but that might feel like it's endless amounts of time long, right? And then if you get if you get brought back to life at some point before you fully croak or whatever, that's where that kind of sense of that near-death experience kind of thing comes from. I don't know. It's a curious question. What I know is this: I don't find any of the ideas postulated by any of the major religions when it comes to the afterlife very convincing. The reason for that is they are all described as being physical places that have some kind of relationship to the planet, and we've went up, down, around, and all over this planet. We ain't found no heaven, we ain't found no hell. Ain't found no sign of them either. And they're both predicated, pretty much every afterlife is predicated on the idea that there's some big supernatural daddy figure that has ordained that to exist. And I don't see any evidence for those, great spiritual daddy figures. I just don't see a whole lot of evidence for that being the case in actual reality. And if that's not the case, that means we don't really need to worry about the implications of whatever afterlife might come. But yeah, no, do I believe in any religion or higher power? I certainly believe in a higher power. I mean, I'm a crazy kind of fucking, like, I'm a fucking hippie. I'm a crazy hippie. I believe in a lot of fucking wild, crazy shit that doesn't necessarily make a whole lot of traditional sense, if you know what I mean. I believe in panpsychism, you know, which isn't exactly a belief in a higher power, but it is a belief that everything, from the chair that I'm sitting on to the pear tree that I'm sitting under, has the quality of mind, has something like a soul that becomes more expressive the more complex the creature is, or the more complex the automaton or object is, right? I think that nature is 100% a higher power than human beings. I think that that is just obvious and plain just by looking around. So I don't know. I consider myself a pretty spiritual person. You know, I find a lot to be gained from just sitting quietly in nature and listening to the birds. And I mean, just listen to this. Now, these aren't birds, but you can hear these crickets around me. And that's wonderful. That's wonderful. And I bask in that kind of thing. And I can lose myself in that sort of natural experience. It's one of my favorite ways to engage in free time, honestly. So I think I would call myself a pretty spiritual person, but as far as believing in like a specific religion, no, it's not really my thing, you know? Christianity is what I was born into. That's what I was raised in, but I don't know that I relate to Christianity all that much anymore. I think that I still look at things from a very Christian lens in a lot of ways, but I think it's a version of Christianity that isn't described very well by the modern church. So I still find myself as a bit of an outsider, even when I'm arguing with other people that were raised Christian, you know? Stop being broke then? Fuck you. Send a super chat and make me feel less broke. To be fair, Merrick, we are learning our archaeology has been one big fat lie. Also, I mean, not really. Archaeology isn't necessarily a lie. I mean, people discover new shit that proves old findings were errant, you know. Science is a process that continuously updates. The Epic of Gilgamesh is an old myth, but it doesn't tell the life of Jesus. It's about a king chasing immortality, not a savior offering it. Ancient creation stories can be interesting. Yeah, I mean, like, the reason the Epic of Gilgamesh is brought up, I think, is because the Epic of Gilgamesh has there are comparisons to be made, right? It's the hero's journey, ultimately, which is what the life of Jesus follows, right? That's what the life of Jesus follows. There's this, there's humble beginnings, and this crazy fucking journey, and like eventual persecution, but a return, you know, and like eventually the hero wins it all, basically. Buddy? I think my partner is joining us. Yeah, he's right there. Turn your flashlight off. It's attracting bugs.
Fuck off.
It is. See all of them?
Do you got a joint?
Yeah.
Can I take a couple hits off it?
Yeah.
If there's anything left, if not.
Mm-hmm. If I can get it to light.
Hi, fuckers.
Can everyday humans catch up to the exponential evolution of humankind? Do you think there will be a state where people cannot catch up mentally? Example, the last 100 years from no flight to space travel. So I think what you're asking is, do I think that the rate of human evolution will continue to keep up with the rate of technological evolution? My answer to that is yes. The humans have already started to show signs that we are actually evolving to adapt to our technology. Humans show generationally better skill at driving, for example. Like human beings. That one just sucks for some reason. It was really resonating. Let me see here. What happened? So why is homophobia considered a phobia? Phobias typically involve intense amount of fear when faced with that conflict. Do some people really get that scared of homosexuals, or is it just a conflict of bias from what people are taught? I believe phobias can also be applied to strong aversions to certain concepts. For example, I have mild acrophobia, fear of heights. I don't have lockdown levels of fear when I get near a high ledge, but I do have a strong aversion to looking over it. Yeah, 100%. I also have no problems with flying or riding roller coasters, but I hate looking over ledges. Yeah, I think Merrick did a really good job of explaining why homophobia is called homophobia. It's not because homophobes are literally scared of gay people, you know? It's not because homosexuals it's not because homophobes are literally scared of homosexuals. It's because they have a strong aversion to homosexuality.
I also just wanted to come say hi to Brody.
Hi, baby. Surprised you're still awake, honestly. Who said I'm ignoring simulation theory? Simulation theory is a pretty different conversation from whether or not we have a god, though.
Damn, I barely got anything out of that shit.
Can I hit your cigarette? Sorry, I like to hit a cigarette every so often still. That makes a lot more sense now. I've wondered that for so long. Yeah, it's maybe a definitional thing.
Alright, I'm gonna head over back to the park.
Oh, okay.
Because I have a feeling I'd be able to hear him better. Because if you've been sitting here this whole time, I haven't really been able to hear you, and I want to make sure I can hear him.
Okay, baby. Love you. It's a common theory, even if true, nothing we can do. Yeah, I mean, it's simulation theory is one of those things that, like, it could technically be true, right? But it's an unfalsifiable hypothesis, number one. So it's not something we can prove or disprove. And number two, it's a hypothesis that we have no effect over, right? If it is true. It's like if simulation is true, that doesn't mean anything, right? It doesn't really mean much other than making the world a slightly more interesting place. Like, even if simulation is true, you still have to get up in the and go to your simulated workplace in your simulated car and listen to your simulated music and interact with your simulated coworkers and go to sleep on your simulated bed at the end of the day, you know? Doesn't really have that many implications in your life, but people will get all caught up in the idea that it does, right? People will get caught up in this idea that simulation theory makes all the difference in the world. I mean, if simulation theory is true, well, that means we could affect this shit somehow. And I really just think in a lot of people's case, it's just cope. They need a way to cope with the fact that the world sucks and they don't really know how to change it. And the ways that people have recommended to change it involve getting their fucking ass up and, like, doing some shit outside, you know? And so they want to, like, get obsessive about the idea that we can affect things if simulation theory happens to be true. Now, I'm not saying that means everyone who believes in simulation theory thinks that way, but I think people who are obsessed with the idea of proving it true and obsessed with the idea of it be, and especially people who act like there is some way we could affect it, who will argue with me about that point, about how it's not something we could affect in any way. I think people like that are just coping, just using it as a cope, you know? Like, they wish they could do some activism, but they can't, so they're just waiting for the fucking simulation to be discovered so they can just, like, program it differently. Phoebe's so fucking smart. Oh, man, Kelly, you are so fucking sweet. I appreciate you, but I'm really not that smart. Why believe in a God that is not real? If it's a 13-year-old drinking Red Bull, what does it matter to praise God? That is true. considering your smart levels, are your shower thoughts life-changing concepts? Hope if they were, I think I would have changed the world by now, my friend. No, I don't know. Honestly, what I think about in the shower ranges from relitigating conversations to thinking about some shit I just read. I mean, I guess there are some kind of life-changing concepts, yeah, that I think about in the shower. Like, honestly, I'll be real with you guys. Me realizing, I realized that the Shah was about to be reinstalled, which I still think is going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen in the next 2 weeks, but I do think it's going to happen on a long enough time scale. I do believe that the Shah of Iran will be reinstalled as a political figure over there, or rather, the Shah's son will be reinstalled as Shah, right? Anyway, that was a shower thought because I'd been reading a shit ton about about Iran's history and Persian history generally, and about Reza Pahlavi, like Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. Um, Reading about that, and then I was listening to an interview with the Ayatollah, I think, afterwards, or some shit like that. I was listening to some 60 Minutes thing, and I was in the shower, and it hit me like a ton of bricks, because I was just thinking about the Middle East and all this shit, and it occurred to me, like, that's what all of this means. That's why Trump was talking about regime change earlier. That's why Reza Pahlavi has offered himself up like 6 fucking times just this year to be the leader of a transitional government, quote unquote, in Iran. Literally, he did it earlier today. Literally, earlier today, Reza Pahlavi was out there fucking stumping for, hey, I can take over the revolution in Iran if you need me to, you know? Both give you no option to change the outcome. Well, yeah, 100%. I think Robert E. Howard put it best: if life is an illusion, then I am no less an illusion, and being thus, the illusion is real to me. I live, I burn with life, I love, I slay, and am content. Yes, I love that. I really love that. Yes. What is that from? Is that from like Conan or something? I'm just pretty anxious, but I'm uneducated mostly because I'm a kid. But what do you think the result of the false ceasefire will be? I'm sorry if my info is wrong, but I don't know much. Well, you know more than a lot of American adults do, frankly. So, what do I think the results of this fake ceasefire are going to be? Not much, honestly. I think the result is mostly going to be a quelling of tensions among maggots. So among people who are super hardcore Trump supporty type people, I think that there's going to be a temporary easing of tensions amongst that crowd. But Iran has already effectively broken the ceasefire. They captured 700 or so Israeli agents that were operating in their country. I'm sure that will be seen as a fucking attack by Israel. I'm 100% sure that will be seen in a negative light by Israel. I'm 100% sure that Israel's going to retaliate in some way. And if that retaliation is open and public, we're going to be right back into it. It'll be like the ceasefire never even happened. And at that point, I don't know what happens. I genuinely don't know what happens. Trump was talking about what's called regime change the other day, which, if you don't know what that means, regime change is when a country goes into another country and helps to topple the leader that currently rules that country and installs a new leader, usually a puppet of theirs, right? America's done it a shit ton in the Middle East. Literally, America's regime change policies are why the Middle East is as fucked up as it is today, particularly Iran, because we replaced their duly elected prime minister, Mohammad Mossadegh, with the Shah of Iran, who was still the Shah under the prime minister, right? But he didn't have nearly as much power. Nearly as much power. He was like a figurehead kind of monarch. But Mossadegh wanted to nationalize the oil supply and wanted the profits to go to the people. And he wanted to get a fair price for Iranian oil. And that simply wasn't going to stand, according to the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company. And they enlisted the help of their good friends, the Americans. And the British MI6 and American CIA collaborated in a plan to depose Mossadegh, at which point the Shah of Iran was reinstalled as like primary leader in Iran. Massive crackdown was done on like the Communist Party and a bunch of other political movements. Basically, the Shah's rule was marked by a bunch of manipulation of the currency, a bunch of manipulation of his people, a bunch of repressive policies and shit, a bunch of shit that paved the way for the Ayatollah. Paved the fucking way for the Ayatollah. And in 1979, the Iranian people finally got sick to death enough of the Shah of Iran to fucking depose his ass. And now, think about this, Spencer. That guy's son, the Shah of Iran, has 6 times now, just this year, offered himself up, or been offered up as a leader for a transitional, quote-unquote, government in Iran. Literally in the shower, Hope. Apparently I want to hear other people's shower thoughts that I do not know. Pretty funny concept, speaking of life. Yeah, no, it 100% is. Oh my god, iPhone. With an apple and bite taken out of it. My shower thoughts are thus. Dragons are cool, or how can I get a cute goth girl to sit on my face? Dude, those are some great shower thoughts. Yes, Conan the Barbarian, I knew it. It's quite a coincidence. Is it? I'll look at it, Merrick, but it doesn't change the fact that believing in a god, if the god is a 13-year-old with a fidget spinner, why believe in a god instead of spending time practicing my fidget spin? That's true. Yikes, only goth to post sometimes. Do they like that kind of dude? I do. I don't know how goth I am, but I do. I like to think of myself as a goth girl. Do you guys think I should dye my hair black? Because I used to dye my hair black pretty often, and I want to dye my hair black again. But you guys got a super chat enough for me to be able to afford black hair dye in July. Funny how the strikes only set them back a few months. The cessation of hostilities is only temporary. A ceasefire is not a peace deal. Thank you. That's a really good point to bring up. Yeah, a ceasefire is not a peace deal. And a peace deal is what we need. We need some kind of forever negotiation, which is not going to happen, honestly, frankly, as long as the Ayatollah is in power. Because America has set itself up with an unwinnable conflict, like we've done a million fucking times in world history. We've done this so many fucking times that it's goddamn ridiculous to think about. But we have set ourselves up with another hornet's nest that there's no good answers to. Because as long as the Ayatollah and his fundamentalist regime remain in power, they're not going to be able to make permanent peace with Israel, most likely, because Israel's always going to see them as a threat, because they're always going to be subtly threatening Israel by saying, you know, and it's not even a subtle threat, to be frank. It's an outright threat. I can understand why Israel views Iran as a threat in a way I don't understand why they view Gaza and Palestine as a threat, right? Gaza and Palestine, not a threat. A Qassam rocket is not an ICBM. But Iran does have ICBMs, and Iran does have a fucking fundamental goal at the core of it that is the death to Zionism and death to America, right? But that's our fucking fault. We are the ones who fucking installed. We are the ones who fucked with their democracy and installed a fucking leader who paved a road that led to people abandoning liberal democracy in favor of fucking fascism. We are the ones who allowed that by installing a leader and encouraging him to use the worst, most exploitative methods to control his people. And it backfired on us more royally than perhaps any other fuck-up we've ever done on the world stage, except, with the possible exception of Afghanistan. Take a chair as we hear the craziest shower thoughts. Yeah, something like that. I'm being somewhat facetious. Most of my shower thoughts are empty/sad. That's kind of sad. Merrick, you're just going to get a clean car, cool playlist, lockdown, solid food spot, and a place to chill. Good luck. Yeah, dude. Jordan Patterson, I should say. Jordan Patterson knows, bro. That's the shit. Oh my god, yes. Clean car, cool playlist. Jordan Patterson, how the fuck? Are we the same person? because that is like, you just described, I can just tell from that description that we share something, right? Which is the idea that, like, if you clean your car and like you clean out your hangout spot, it's almost like you know, it's almost Jordan Peterson-esque, right? But it's kind of like the clean your room bucko kind of principle, where if you you put together a nice playlist and you clean out your car and everything, and you give yourself a little budget for a cool food spot, and if you smoke, maybe you buy yourself a J or roll one up and take it with you or something like that. You take a shower, you go hang out in that car. There is something restorative about doing that whole process. And the same thing is true if you spend an evening like cleaning up your kitchen, just like cleaning up your house basically, and your bedroom and everything, and then taking a shower and putting on a cool playlist and smoking a blunt. Dude, there is nothing more sublime than that activity. Miracle MFG, mine too. Maybe I am goth. Spiraling depression, hiding behind comedies, either goth or punk as fuck to me. Oh, well, I mean, the great thing about goth is that it is an outgrowth of the punk movement, you know? A lot of people don't realize it, but the goth movement is an outgrowth of the punk movement. Basically, goths are punks that looked at Morticia Addams and really like media like the Addams Family and the Munsters and shit like that. They looked at so basically, goths are punk rock meets horror. That's what goths are. Goths are punk rock, punk aesthetic, DIY or die kind of attitude meets horrorcore and Morticia Addams and the rest of the Addams Family and the Munsters and shit, right? You combine those two fucking concepts and you've got an endless army of goth girls. This whole situation is genuinely insane. I can't believe people still support this. Also, thank you for clearing some things up. I listen to a lot of your streams while I paint, lol. Oh, that's really cool, Spencer. Thank you for letting me know that, actually. It is really wonderful to know that when there are like 14 or 15 people in here and it's like a really quiet night, it's cool to know that there are some people watching who don't even comment that much. They're just in here every so often, but they mostly just chill with the stream on and listen to whatever's being talked about. That is genuinely reassuring, so I appreciate that a lot. TBH, my first boyfriend was whatever the fuck, under oath the used, seize the day or die regretting the times. Yeah, whatever it is. Nice, right on. I immediately regret sharing my shower thoughts. I'm sorry, Merrick. I wrapped that shit hard. Nobody's judging out loud, hopefully. I hope not. Phoebe, bitch, you know you need a podcast. Have me on. I'm controversial as fuck. Good for ratings. That would be funny. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm controversial as fuck. I mean, that's one of the things about my streams. I'm not going to say I'm like a shock jock on the level of any of the people who've made it famous, but I'm kind of a shock jock, you know? I say wild shit. I'm an open trans lady who doesn't voice train. Sometimes I've got a pride flag in the fucking back. Sometimes I'm wearing some pretty revealing stuff, you know? So, like, whatever, you know? Like, I'm a rage baiter, I guess. To a degree, at the very least. But you're right, it is good for ratings. I'm married, that's why. Yeah, fair enough. But I feel like that's probably a tendency you had before you were married. I bet. The way you're talking kind of reminds me of my old friend Colin. And he was very much that way. Man, I miss that person a lot. I miss them quite a bit. Most talented musician I ever played with, by the way. Probably the most talented musician I'll ever play with, frankly. That kid, I fucking hated him going into a Guitar Center. No, that's a joke. I really liked going into a Guitar Center with him, but it was also jealousy-inducing, where I couldn't help it, because he would go into the most random of fucking spots and start playing and making good music out of whatever he touched. It'd be some shit you'd never even heard him talk about in the past. You've never even heard him bring up a marimba, but then he just sits there and plays it, you know? You've never even heard the kid fucking bring up a synthesizer, but then you start hearing about how he knows all this shit about synths, and he starts making a beat on the fly, and it's like, motherfucker, how much talent is one human being allowed to hold in their bodies? Come on now. play some fucking piano and then go immediately over to the electric guitar section and play some complicated ass riff, do the same in the bass section, fucking fuck around on the classical guitars for 20 minutes. Fuck that kid. Nah. Colin was cool. Cool as fuck. I just wish I had a third of that talent. You're very intelligent. You got the knowledge. Some people have regressed in thoughts. I don't know about that. I don't think I'm honestly all that much smarter than the average person. I think maybe I'm just a little bit more truthful with myself. And I think maybe I just read a little bit more than the average person. I think a lot of people are smart in their own way. But I think that when it comes to political decisions and awareness about current events and shit, you have to understand how much fucking propagandic pressure people are under. You have to understand how much fucking intense weight is on people's political decisions nowadays. I mean, shit has become tense, dude. 20 years ago, it didn't matter if you voted Republican. You weren't getting not invited to Thanksgiving because you voted Republican. You weren't getting not invited to fucking Thanksgiving just because you voted Democrat, you know? Like, 30 fucking years ago, it wasn't like that. From what I have talked to my parents, like, I wasn't around then, but, you know, like, my understanding from having talked to other people, it wasn't like that. And I know it wasn't like that 20 years ago. I'm old enough to remember what 20 years ago was vaguely like, and people were not fucking... It didn't come up like it does nowadays. Nowadays, it's a constant fucking topic of conversation in so many different fucking places. And it didn't used to be like that. Speaking of which, I'm going to go take a shower, and now, before bed, we'll report back if I have any good shower thoughts. Oh, good. Good, Merrick. Please do that. Yeah. She's smarter than people MS for dang sure. Do Mayday Parade for shower music. That picture frames face down one and cry. Oh my god, yeah. No, don't do that. You'll just make yourself miserable. That's awful. Train about to be coming through, by the way. But, yeah, no, I don't, like, here's the thing. I think people in Mississippi are a particular fucking sad case because the education system sucked down here for so long. Like, honestly, our education now is middle of the pack. We're not doing nearly as bad as we used to. Now there are, like, 18 other states that do worse than we do, right? So we're still not leading the fucking front when it comes to education, but we're doing way better than we used to. But that still means that there are like 3 generations of Mississippians who are completely failed by their education system. You know? 3 fucking generations of human beings just completely failed. What a considerate engineer. You can tell that engineer understood the assignment. He's like, you know what? There's some people living right next to here. I can see the road on both sides. Nobody's coming. Nobody's waiting with that fucking thing. I'm just gonna scoot my ass through and do single tubes. Thank you. I try to stay as aware as I can of everything going on, but honestly, there's only so much you can find out, along with the fact that most friends around my age don't talk about important topics. Well, yeah, I mean, like, I don't know how old you are, and for your own safety, don't say it in here, please. For your own safety, I don't need to know. As long as you act mature, you can hang out in here, you know? But my thing is, I just don't want anybody being creepy to you or whatever, so just be careful about that kind of thing. But if you're like 13 or 14, then you're probably not surrounded by a whole bunch of people for whom politics has become important yet. I know because I used to be in your position, you know. I started caring about politics probably when I was 14 or 15, and the more I learned about it, the more I cared, and, you know, so I've been studying it now for what, like 12, 13 years? So, you know, if you're like 12 or 13, for the extent of your lifetime, I've been studying political theory in one form or another, at an amateur level, not at a collegiate level, but still. People that are your age are just now getting to the age where they might get an interest in that kind of thing. And for a lot of people, it takes something making them interested in that. I mean, some people, like, I was raised with parents who were kind of political. I was raised with parents who both of them, they were kind of apolitical, but political at the same time. Both of them definitely had policies that they supported and policies that they didn't support, but neither of them were affiliated with any party either. Both of them were kind of anti-two-party system kind of people, but it helped to make me interested in politics by extension. There's nothing like the rare opportunity of talking about something serious with here. I mean, yeah. And it's something that, unfortunately, for a lot of people, for a lot of younger people, it's something that's kind of hard for them to define, because America is literally doing everything in its power to disenfranchise you guys. America is doing everything in its power to get young people to not care about politics, to get them to not educate themselves, to get them to not even care about the things that matter. So that things like what's happening right now, all this rejection, right? There was literally an anti-war protest in New York City. There was a socialist elected in New York City. No, well, not he wasn't elected, but he won the primary against Andrew Cuomo. So he's now going to go up against whatever Republican candidate, whatever joke of a Republican pops up to oppose him, and he's going to win. I guarantee you he wins. Because the fucking atmosphere there is so thick with it, right? It's so thick with this kind of leftist attitude, this sort of desire for change. Campfire stories with Phoebe? Yeah, something like that. I think your vocabulary choices are spreading. I might become smart. Yeah, perhaps. I mean, one of the beautiful things about listening to someone who does use a pretty expansive vocabulary is that you do start to pick up little words and phrases from them, right? I mean, like, one of the people I listen to on YouTube a lot, the person that actually inspired me to start doing these, because it's the same format of stream that he does, is a dude named Paul Zigo. You can find him at the Poltergeist or at Paul Zigo, Paulsego, or the Poltergeist, you know, like the Poltergeist, but instead of Pol, it's Paul. But Paul has an incredibly expansive vocabulary, and listening to him helped to expand my vocabulary at a pretty critical point in my life as well. Which, you know, being raised by two parents who taught me how to read at a very early age and who read to me from a very early age, I already had a pretty expansive vocabulary. But, you know, Paul is from the West Coast, I'm from the South, and Paul's parents are actually also from the South, but they're from a different part of the South than my family is. So, Paul's got this weird kind of diction that enabled me to pick up on all sorts of new little phrases and things to add to my knapsack of words and phrases. And so I've got personal experience with that sort of thing working. It's definitely a real thing. And I don't know if it makes you smarter. It probably just makes you better at talking. But that's, you know, that's something, right? My parents are pretty much the same way, and I really want to try to get more into things. Pretty much the same way. Do you mean the same way as, like, I was describing my being? I read a lot of my dad's books he has because he's pretty well educated, and I appreciate how much of your thoughts you're willing to share. Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's what these streams are all about, right? Is sharing my thoughts. I mean, maybe it's a little narcissistic, but ultimately, these are an opportunity for me to share my thoughts on the fly. These are an opportunity for me to have something like a conversation, and they're pretty fun to do. It's really fun to have like a simulated conversation with a bunch of people who are of varying ages and levels of experience. You know, it's really fun to engage in that kind of thing, and yeah, and yeah. So, you know, I like thank you guys for listening. Basically, facts pretty sad and scary. Part of it's scary, part of it's sad, part of it's also kind of endearing, right? Like, think about it. Think about it like this. All of this republicanism, all of this center-right bullshit coming out of the Democratic Party, all the fascism and authoritarianism coming out of Donald Trump, all of this could be the radicalizing factors that are needed to enable an actual fucking leftist movement to take power in this country. Because that's what it's going to take. And I think that that might take some, like, massive sit-in type action in Washington, D.C. and Wall Street. like a repeat of Occupy Wall Street, but this time nobody leaves. This time we fucking stand the line. This time we get millions and millions of people out there. I think that something like that would be a great way to force change out of the current administration and to set us up for forming a third party, an American Labor Party or an American Workers' Party or some kind of third party that focuses primarily on economic issues, on issues of shared interest, right? Something like that could help us to actually win significant wins in this country. And it would also allow us to skirt around the fucking constant criticisms of the Republicans and the Democrats, right? If this third party that was established only took grassroots donations and had a maximum donation cap, if this third party that was created actually fucking stuck to its guns on what it believes, and most importantly of all, if it recruited the right people, fucking average people, I probably would not be a great spokesperson for this movement, at least not in my area, I live in the Deep South. A fucking super lefty trans woman is not the person to convince those people that they need to go along with this third party. But somebody who is kind of progressive from this area, but is just, a cisgender person that works in one of the local businesses, that person does. They do have the sway. They do have the fucking know-how to convince people, right? What if we become the smart world? Well, hopefully I'll get rich and famous and I can take us all on a super cool vacation cruise. If that happens. Hey, what up, Beebs? What up, Book Blaze? What support group do you think we need most in America? Oh, support group? Like a bunch of people sitting around, like, fucking commiserating about their shared trauma? I don't know. I really don't know. If you mean, like, what kind of mutual aid group do you think we need most in America? I think that is really kind of hard to figure out. I think that one of the biggest issues in America, as I see it, is tenants' rights and housing rights in general, right? In America, you are expected to pay out the ass after you get to a certain age just for the right to have a place to shower every day, a place to lay your head at night. That is ridiculous. Your fucking right to have a place to sleep should not be contingent on someone else's ability to make a profit off of it. And the fact that it is why there are so many homeless people. That's why. It's not because there's just a group of fucking human beings that just can't figure it out. Because no other country deals with the type of homelessness that we deal with. And the reason we deal with it is because our housing policies are so fucking anti-tenant. We are such a pro-landlord country. And that is going to have to change if we are ever to address this critical problem of homelessness, and if we're to address the critical problem of, like, miring poverty that requires people to work 3 fucking jobs or 2 jobs and a gig job just to fucking get by, just to make sure all their bills get paid and they can fucking have a fucking meal out every month or 2. And that is fucking absurd. And the reason that is the way that, like, the way that they are held in that economic stasis is through rent. Like, that is the mechanism by which people are maintained in that sort of economic stasis. So I am going to have to move inside to plug you guys up to the charger if we want to continue this conversation. Whoa! So hold on one second while I gather up my things. Oh, Lord have mercy. Oh, okay. I'm running out of iced coffee. This is a travesty. At least I can take down this fucking jank-ass fucking mount that I made. So I'll take both of these over there. Take this over there. go. Goddamn, Beebs, thick thighs, be saving some lives tonight. Man, everyone in my chat is such a horn dog. No, I'm just kidding. I am showing off a little bit, I guess. Anyway, so now I've got the candle shut off. But the real question is, do I bring it in with me? Because I kind of like the idea, I don't know about you guys, but I like the idea of moving this inside, hooking back up to the charger, and then turning the light off and relighting the candle. But first I have to make sure I have all my things with me. All my ducks in a row. Oh! Okay. Isn't it nearly impossible to get a job as a homeless person? Well, as someone who used to be homeless, yes, it is. It requires you... Well, okay, I'll tell you what. Let me get inside, and we will go into more detail on this. Damn it. Of course, the fucking thing is locked. Freaking fuck. Okay, anyway. Hold on for 1 second. Things we do for streams. Okay, there we go. Pick this and... Ooh, that probably wasn't good for it. Okay. Okay. Sorry, guys, I had to see my shitty ass outbuilding. Yes, I love the lighting the candle gives. Me too, friend. Me too. Okay, so now what we'll do is we will open this candle back up. Oh, Jesus Christ. What I was afraid of happened. That's not good. Oh, Jesus Christ. Well. Oopsie. Oops. I'm just a silly girl. I didn't mean to do it. Does that excuse work? Does that fly? Okay. Lighter. There we go. So now we'll light this back up. Ow. Fuck. Ow. Fuck me. Okay. And now we can unplug these. Maybe. Jesus, that was hard to do. It was like unreasonably hard to do. Anyway. Yay. We as a country should not have poverty like we do. Rich don't want to help at all. No, of course not. Well, they've got profit to be made, you see. That's the fucking problem. That's one of the many problems with the profit motive. That's one of the many problems with allowing the profit motive to be what dominates politics in your country and what motivates change, too. right? As long as the profit motive is what motivates change in your country, you're never going to be able to seriously address problems that are predicated on someone making money. Because as long as something is making someone money in a capitalist society, you cannot address it without fucking running up against their income. And you have to do serious amounts of work. You have to basically make somebody else a bunch of money to be able to subvert that. And so the only answer is bringing down capitalism. The only answer, ultimately, to fixing this shit permanently is bringing down capitalism. But in the short term, there are things we can do that I think would work within capitalism that would still be anti-capitalist enough to save some things, right? Like everything that you take out of the, okay, well, everything you take out of the system of capitalism through nationalization still has the capacity to be exploited by capitalists, but it gives you the ability to make it publicly accountable. It gives you options that that just letting those things be done by private companies don't give you, right? Additionally, would getting a house be just as bad because of the low amount of opportunities for high enough paying jobs to a homeless person? I mean, cost-wise, yeah. Like, if a homeless person was expected to pay for a house that they were put into, then yeah, they would face the same fucking problems fundamentally, right? But most of the policy changes that are proposed that would end up giving homeless people houses, the idea is not to have them paying for them, but to have it be subsidized in some way. But yeah, let me see. Let me remind myself what you said earlier. Between being taken seriously, looking presentable, having a way to receive things through a bank, which sort of requires other stuff, and how would one make a resume? Isn't it nearly impossible to get a job as a homeless person? So yeah, I used to be homeless, and in my experience, here are the problems you run up against as a person who is homeless trying to get a job. The first and fucking primary problem is that you don't have an address. You don't have anything to put in the address box unless you can find someone who is willing to let you use their address, but that's going to be pretty fucking difficult because people are distrustful of homeless people. Just culturally in America, we're distrustful of homeless people. We're distrustful of bums, and so nobody wants to let a bum use their fucking home address. And so that's usually the first problem a homeless person runs into. That's why a homeless person who's really trying to get off the road or really trying to get off the streets, that's why they pretty much have to end up going to one of these exploitative fucking shelters, one of these religious fucking organizations that forces someone into a certain kind of prayer regime and shit. That's why they end up going to them, because it's the only way that they can get a fucking address. You know, I would have never gotten unhomeless probably had it not been for one of my friends that used to travel with me getting an apartment. You know, and they wouldn't have gotten an apartment if it hadn't been for one of their friends in the town that they were from offering to take them in long term until they could get their own place. So without a hand up, like, that's the cycle that a homeless person gets stuck in America. It's the cruel cycle of poverty when it gets that bad. When poverty gets bad enough in America, you get to a point where you literally cannot afford to take a shower anymore because you don't have a house anymore. Which means but the fact that you don't have a house anymore means you don't have an address. And because you can't get a job, because you don't have an address, you don't have a bank, you don't have even a way to take a shower regularly, maybe you have transportation, but that might be it. You know, maybe you're able to keep up on presentability. Maybe if you are like going into homelessness and you're trying to be maximally prepared and you didn't lose your job, then maybe you can keep things up living in your car. And the sad fucking thing of it is that there's a lot of homeless people right now, a lot of people that we consider homeless, that is their fucking existence. They are people who by all rights should have a place to live, who don't, or who have decided, you know what, I would rather take my chances living in my car than trying to live in one of these fucking overpriced ass apartments that I would not be able to afford, or that I would barely be able to afford. Or the way the renting is set up in their area makes it so that it's just impossible for them to save enough with the cost of living for them to have like a down payment and shit. Or not a down payment, but a security deposit in first and last month's rent. All of the barriers that are set up between people and housing are extra fucking they're extra impedimentists or whatever. I can't think of the word I'm trying to say, but they lead to even more impediment for a homeless person. versus someone who's got the ability, like somebody who's already got a place to live and everything. I mean, you have more of a basis to expand from that than somebody who is utterly homeless. Somebody who's utterly homeless has no address, no way to get a job, no way to get a house because they have no way to get a job, and they have no way to get a job because they don't have a house, and it becomes this fucking horrible cycle that leads to people getting, like, if someone doesn't get out of that cycle, eventually they do end up as just another street person. And that's the fucking sad fact of it, is that if a human being is not rescued from that cycle by some act of the government or some act of human kindness in their own community, that person just ends up becoming like a full-fledged street person. They just exist on the streets. They exist on people's couches and on the sidewalks and shit. We must remove money from politics, dismantle the two-party system, and get rid of lobbying. Socialism and communism is not the way. Once you add human greed into the equation, your utopia goes bye-bye. Well, I don't agree on the last part, but I do agree with the first parts. So as far as I'm... Sorry. Woo! I don't agree with that last part, but I do agree with the first part, so whatever. I guess we're allies. Well, were you homeless for a while, and how difficult would you consider it? It was the hardest time of my life. Literally, Hope, it was the hardest time of my life. I'm not going to lie, it was also the most interesting part of my life. But it was by far the hardest. I have never struggled harder than when I was homeless. I have never fought for my right to just exist harder than when I was homeless. I have never encountered more danger than when I was homeless. Just the fucking raw facts of it. So, I bought the van that I would begin living in March of 2021. And by April of 2021, I was on my way to Boulder, Colorado. I was living at the time in that van with 3 other people. Yeah, 3 other people. I don't want to say their names necessarily because, I don't know, feels disrespectful of their privacy, but I was traveling with 3 other people, one of whom was like a friend that I had made online, and we really vibed, and then we met up IRL and tripped the night before we set out. And at first it was kind of awkward the next day, because I think they thought I said something that was way more dismissive than it actually was, which it was already pretty dismissive, but I don't know. It was dismissive in a way that we were to each other sometimes, It was like, I don't know, it was the kind of banter that I was very used to doing with Adam. Fuck. God damn it. My dumb ass always saying people's names. Anyway, it was weird, but the next day we were sober and we talked it out and we talked it through and we got used to each other's presence again, and we kind of got to know each other as IRL friends, and it was cool. And then there were 2 other people. One was their partner, the person I was just talking about, and the other was their partner's ex, basically. And me and that person vibed a whole lot, but they got off in Boulder, and then it was just me and the other 2. Adam and unnamed other person. And we traveled all over the fucking United States that year, but mostly the Southwest, honestly. Mostly the Southwest. And then I ended up leaving them in Las Cruces and heading back east after going to Shiprock, New Mexico to pick somebody up. I gave them a ride to St. Louis, and then I headed down south. And that was in September of 2021 when I finally headed down to Mississippi. I overwintered down here in Mississippi. I was living with my mom had an apartment at the time, and I was living with her over the winter. And then in like mid-March of 2022, I took off again there were a few years there where me and my mom just did not work as roommates, and really like this is the first time I've been living with my parents again for the last couple of years, and this is the first time in my entire life that I've managed to live with my parents and have it not be contentious, you know. Um, and I think that that's the only reason why it's lasted as long as it has. Which at this point it's been almost 2 years. It's been almost 2 years of living down here, but my parents are back together. There's um, things are different in our life in a way that they haven't been in the past, and I think that that may have crystallized things in everybody's minds. And so, we all get along perfectly well now, but there were a few years there where me and my mom just were not good roommates, and I could not get inspired to rescue myself from the situation I was in. And the only place I could overwinter, Mississippi, certainly did not have any infrastructure that was designed to help a person figure out their place in the world and shit. You're kind of expected to save yourself in states like Mississippi. And so the first few years I would try, like I said, I would come home over winter, and I would usually work for most of that time, but end up losing my job like a month or two before I would end up heading out again, and I would just busk for the rest of the time to get whatever little money I could, so that I, at the very least, was buying my own weed and sugar for sweet tea and shit like that. I mean, it's kind of pathetic to think about it, but you can. I'm sure you're starting to see the picture, right? Like, I don't I don't claim to have been some kind of perfect person. I want to be 100% sure about that. Like, I think ultimately the reason I was homeless for those years was because I was going through some kind of mental break, maybe? I don't know. There was just a while where I felt so alienated by the world. Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm putting it the right way. But there was just a point in my life where I felt like I didn't fit in anywhere. Like, the street was the closest thing that I had to a home, and that's why I would always want to end up getting back to it. There was just a while where I felt like I had more in common with the garbage and the highway dust and the snow-capped Rockies than I did with my own family. And I don't know. Does that make me a horrible person? I hope not. I don't know. In my opinion, what matters is that I've learned to be a functional human now. Y'all gonna have to help me let go of this anger. Woo, I'm going through so much. Oh, I'm sorry, Kelly. I hope you're okay. Being homeless sucks, especially up north in the winter. It's quite difficult. Usually it's due to drugs or mental health issues. Yeah, I think in my case it really just does amount to mental health issues, A lot of people, I think, based on the description I gave, would say just laziness, but that's really not it. That's really not it, because I had to hustle the whole time I was overwintering. Like I said, I would be working a full-time job, usually up like a month or two before I would leave, and then I'd end up losing it somehow. And after that, I'd be hustling with my fucking guitar, like 6-8 hours in the fucking in the cold, the windy cold, the rainy cold, doesn't matter. 6 to 8 hours with my guitar and my voice, trying to make something interesting out of what are the same fucking 45, 47 songs, I found the manifesto in 4th grade and was an ardent communist until my early 20s. Sounds like you've got some good stuff. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's funny. I'm in my late 20s, and I just started reading the Communist Manifesto not the other day. It was a couple of months ago, actually. But I don't know. Reading the Communist Manifesto confirmed in my mind that I'm not a communist, because I think that modern problems require modern solutions, And when it comes to communism in particular, we're talking about an ancient fucking system at this point. We're talking about an old-ass system. old ass system, and I just don't think it can properly address the issues of today. Sounds like life was way too hard on you. No, everything that happened to me in my life was necessary for me to get to the point that I've gotten to. I couldn't be an interesting person and talk to you guys the way I do if I hadn't gone through some of the things that I have. I wouldn't have nearly the amount of stories that I have. I wouldn't be nearly as confident in myself if I hadn't played for various spontaneous crowds from St. Louis to Pismo Beach and from Pismo Beach to Salisbury Beach, Massachusetts, you know? Like, if I hadn't had the broad, varied, and kind of frankly incredible experiences that I was able to have through being a homeless person with a van that was able to, drive to different places and busk for gas money and jug their way to different places, um, I wouldn't trade any of that for the world. But yeah, it was some of the hardest time of my life just by virtue of how much I had to do when I was on the road, right? When I was on the road, obviously I couldn't just make friends anywhere I went, right? Like that sort of thing takes time. And so anytime my van broke down, 9 times out of 10, I was walking all the way across town to go get a part. If we needed a part, that's how it had to happen. I was going to fucking we were going to have to walk to whatever spot we needed to go to Spange, and then we were going to have to walk from the van all the way to whatever spot we needed to get the part at and walk all the way fucking back. um, there were literally days when I was homeless, there were literally days where we would wake up at like 7 in the morning and go to bed at like 8 at night, and that entire fucking day would be spent doing something. Like not a moment of free time in that entire day, just because that's the kind of fucking hustle you got to be on sometimes. I do think you can hit a point where you're just like not socialized anymore. 100% Book Blaze. Honestly, I was not far away from that point, Book Blaze. I was genuinely not far from that point. It took me a while of socializing with regular people again before I got back to the place where I'm kind of getting to now, where I can have a normal conversation with regular everyday people and where I don't feel so socially isolated, right? Because I got to tell you, when I first got off the road, dude, I felt like I have to imagine a feral dog feels, or like a feral cat maybe, like a feral cat feels once it's been taken in by an adoptive family. I was scared to fucking death, and also defiant at the same time. I felt like nobody understood, nobody could possibly understand where I was coming from. I felt like people's rhetoric that they would just so openly spill out could sometimes be so hateful. It was just hard to adjust. It was hard to adjust at first. I think I just got such good knowledge about something most popular streamers could never. Such good knowledge about something most popular streamers could never. What do you mean? I'm not sure 100% what you mean, but maybe. What a cool story. Yeah, I don't know how cool it is, but that's basically how, the years of my life between 2021 and 2023 went. Hard to believe it's 2025 now. Hella dope to hear some more of your stories from your early 20s. It's a good time in life to get a little lost. Exactly, Book Blaze. Exactly. And that's what I craved. And there's this, I think it's a Jack Kerouac quote, or maybe it's somebody else. I can't remember who said it actually, but the quote goes like this: I went into the wilds because I wanted to live deliberately. And that quote rings in my head whenever I think about my time on the road. I had lived not a very sheltered life, but I had lived a life that danced around that kind of thing. I never knew a homeless person. I never knew a traveler IRL. I maybe saw a total of 3 or 4 of them in my life. And I don't know, I saw a sort of hollowness a sort of emptiness in my own life up until that point, and in the lives of so many of the people that surrounded me. I started to see how, at a certain point, the decisions that you make day to day stop mattering. You know, you get into this cycle where you're on autopilot, basically, and this, that, or the other thing doesn't really make a difference as to whether or not you're happy or whether or not you've got the money to eat that night, right? And the first time I got on the road, I didn't look at myself as becoming homeless. I looked at myself as, well, I'm going to move out again. Because at that point, I'd moved out of the house I was sharing with roommates and back into my mom's house back in Missouri, and lived with her for about a year and a half. And then when I moved into my van and started traveling, I kind of looked at it as like an upgrade. And I continued to look at it as an upgrade until, like, I don't know, mid that summer when I came back to the Midwest and had to start, like, sleeping in that fucking thing every night in the Midwest heat. Bro, my God, you would never fucking believe how hot your ass could get. That's when it got real. Basically, popular streamers can't always communicate stuff like that by putting themselves out there for all of these people, but small streamers always have cool stories. Oh, well, yeah. I think big streamers have. You know what the fucking sad thing of it is? Honestly, big streamers have cool stories too, but a lot of times a big streamer is big because they don't. Because the way that they talk about themselves is a little bit different. Like, I'm clearly a person who's pretty fascinated by my own life, you know? Whatever. You could say it's a little narcissistic, but at least I know it about myself, right? And but a lot of other people find my life interesting too, and I'm small enough, so maybe you are right. Maybe you are right, Hope, because, like, I'm small enough that there are people who will scroll on to my channel, listen to me telling a story like that, and they'll be like, "Nice, that's kind of cool. This person's kind of neat. Subscribe." Maybe they don't even say anything in the chat, but they just hit that subscribe button and they keep scrolling. But they come back. They come back and watch the stream later, and they uh, listen to the story and everything. And I think that if you want to become like a super big streamer, you really can't. I mean, it's been basically half an hour of me talking about my dumb ass and how I ended up being homeless and how I ended up getting off the road and what being on the road was like and shit like that. It's been like 45 minutes of that, you know? There are a lot of big streamers that, like, if they did that, there would be like a 50% reduction in the live audience during that segment, you know, because their viewers signed up for their channel not for authenticity and a real person that's got, like, actual stories and shit and a backstory to their life and everything they're willing to share, because it doesn't fucking matter, because the internet's gonna find out whatever the internet wants to find out. If your shit can be done, here's the fucking thing, right? Here's another reason why I'm so open about my fucking past and everything. I'm so open about my different stories and shit, is because that anything that is documented, the internet can find out somehow, some fucking how. There's going to be a leak somewhere, right? And anything that can't be proven, um, it's not going to matter anyway, you know. So if it's some kind of, like, slightly outrageous story, but there's no documentation behind it, then, like, as long as it's not, like, completely depraved, in my opinion, people should still tell those stories, because, like, why let the court of public opinion tell you what kind of life you can and cannot lead? Like, why is it that every human being on earth is allowed to make mistakes and have a weird, fucked up life and a strange life and a mysterious life, but streamers are expected to be perfect people who grew up, like, I don't know, like little dolls, and lived perfect little lives that were in a little dome, in a little bubble, you know, and nothing ever touched them and they never touched anything, and, like, that's just how it's supposed to be, right? But that's not how human beings are. Every human being has skeletons in their closet. I googled it. Henry David Thoreau. Yeah, thank you. I thought it might have been a Thoreau quote, but I couldn't think of the dude's name. I just went, fought again. I'm postpartum as fuck, and one of them that's not supposed to be a mom but became one. And I love my little preemie, but OMG, so much is going on with me. Oh my god, Kelly. You need to add me on Discord. Maybe I can, maybe at the very least we can commiserate or something, you know? Because I'm a mom too. I'm not, my son thankfully was not born premature, but he is a wonderful little ball of happiness and sleepiness. And he is, oh my god, he's the cutest thing, y'all. He is adorable. He's like a perfect little amalgamation of me and his mom. Well, his other mom, obviously. In a way, does that make you happy to be a smaller streamer? I guess, yeah. But honestly, like, my rate of growth is pretty fucking meteoric. If it continues like it has been, I probably won't be that small a streamer for that long. Like, if my rate of growth continues as it does, I'll have like 12,000 subs by this time next year, if not more. You know, like, I could easily have 20,000 subs by this time next year if my rate of growth continues, if I continue to be consistent about things and I continue to provide good takes that people find that are worth coming back for, right? I mean, we had 1,000 peak viewers the other day, so that's probably not going to be that small a stream that much longer, like, honestly. But yes, I do think that I am glad that I'll probably never reach the, like, I'm glad that I'll probably never reach the level that Vosh is at. I'll put it that way. I'm glad that I'll probably never reach the level that Vosh is at, or Hassan is at, or Destiny is at. I would not want that much responsibility. I would not want that many people taking me seriously. I prefer to look at myself as more of a Straussian kind of figure, and honestly, that maybe I shouldn't make that reference, because anyone who does know what that means is probably going to be off-put by me calling myself that. I don't mean to say that I don't mean to imply that I have Straussian beliefs, but I kind of agree with Strauss's idea that it's better to have a smaller group of people who are paying closer attention to you than it is to have a wide following who misconstrues a bunch of what you say, or who aren't able to implement your message properly. Does that make any sense? Yippee, that's a lot of people. Yeah, I mean, you were here for that stream, I'm pretty sure. Let's push you into the upper echelon of YouTube as an example of what people are really interested in. Are people really interested in crazy fucking trans girls that sit by candlelight and talk crazy shit about politics? If so, I'm your gal. Hey, I'm right here. I'm ready to be the poster child, you know? But failing that, I'm content. Like, I would be, you know how happy I would be with like 25,000 subs? Dude, like, I live a privileged enough life, like, and honestly, all of that privilege comes from the fact that my family owns land, that we don't have to pay rent, right? Like, that, just owning land and not having it mortgaged is like an immense fucking privilege. People who've never experienced it don't know what they're missing out on. Just imagine if you didn't have to pay your rent payment. Imagine if you had to make one rent payment a year. Imagine if you had to make one rent payment a year and it was about half of what your rent is. That's owning your own land. Now, there are home ownership expenses and shit, but they're never going to come up to the amount of rent. Otherwise, rent would not be a profitable enterprise. That's the whole fucking concept behind it. That's why home ownership is cheaper than renting. Or that's why it's supposed to be cheaper than renting. But that's also why all these companies and all these buyers have made their fucking prices so ridiculously high on their houses, because they know that if they allow housing to be cheaper through purchase than it is through rent, then nobody's going to rent. And their fucking scheme to force America into a country of renters isn't going to work. That's another reason. Somebody asked me earlier, why don't you just move to a more northerly climate? That's why. Because I live a life of intense privilege that most other people can only dream of in modern America. I wouldn't give this land up if you fucking paid me $1 million. Okay, well, maybe if you paid me $1 million. But failing that, you know. Hell yeah. What the fuck else is interesting? I don't know. Good point. Absolutely, people are interested. Well, absolutely, people are. I wouldn't be able to draw the numbers that I do if people weren't interested, right? There's clearly something charming about me. There's clearly something interesting about my presence and my presentation. Um, but what that is, I think, is up to other people to decide and figure out, you know? This channel makes you smarter and open-minded. No, I mean, I really do think that I do think that contact theory works through the internet. Genuinely, I don't know if you're joking or if you're being 100% serious, but I do think that being kind to people, or at the very least hearing them out and arguing with them, that is the only way to get people to that is the only way to open people's minds up, right? If you just dismiss them instantly, right? Like we could have done with James, right? We could have just dismissed James instantly and been like, we don't want to have this argument, goodbye. But we didn't. We had it out with him. We discussed it with him. We argued about it with him. And that makes all the fucking difference. James is going to come away from the conversation we had earlier thinking differently about trans people and about people on the internet than he did before. And I'm not saying the conversation didn't get kind of vitriolic at some points, but I don't think I presented a lot of that. And I think that in the end, James felt like we were hearing him out at the very least, But you know, at least James knows now that not every atheist is just going to instantly dismiss the idea that there's any validity to it whatsoever. Like having these arguments matters. Having this discussion matters. Talking is possibly one of the most important things that human beings engage in, and it's one of the most underrated things that we do. No, it was me. Aw, Kelly. Well, I knew that, but I didn't want to say that because I didn't want to single you out. Hey, Phoebes, can I request a Days and Days song from me at some point? Sure. I can play a misanthropic drunken loner. This is like the kind of midnight conversations you have with the elders in your family that you might forget or take with you forever. Hope that is a really, really high compliment, and I really do appreciate that. I don't think I'm anywhere near that smart, but it is really cool that you think that. And it's also really cool to me that people's elders are still having conversations with them like that, because I have the same kind of memories, sitting around with my Nana, and, we've got, like, the lights are off, but the candles are all going, or maybe the lights are off, but the TV's going, or, like, for my Nana, sometimes she would just have us gather up around the computer, and she would let us help her out with her games and shit. She liked all these little point and click games, and one of the games she liked so much was the Nancy Drew games. Those were super fucking fun, honestly. Some of those were super cool. She also liked Fish Tycoon and that kind of thing. It's funny, my Nana always had a gaming capable computer. Like, whatever that meant at the time she had a computer, she had it. But she used it to fucking play, like, dumbass fucking point and click games. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get why, if you had that kind of tech, you would waste it on shockwave games, but, not my money, not my paper book, not my fucking business to be concerned about, But it was really cool to sit around with her and help her out with her games and talk to her and shit. It's just cool to think that sort of thing, like, there's some human traditions that never die out, And I've had, like, a million conversations. Like, I'd tell you another environment where it's really common to have, like, a deep conversation with your elders that you take with you forever. Sitting around a campfire. I don't know if your grandparents ever took you camping. Mine did. Because my grandpa was a union plumber. When he retired, he was like a foreman or some shit. He was making a bunch of money, and so he had a pretty good 401k, and he had enough money saved up. He was able to do some pretty crazy shit. So he had a motorhome, and we went camping in that several times. Even when they got rid of the motorhome, they had a really long fifth wheel pull behind. That was pretty cool. And we went camping in that fifth wheel several times, and we had some really wonderful, interesting conversations sitting around the fire. Sit down in the garage, light a candle, have a popsicle, and yap about something fun. Core memories of everyone's childhood. Bonus points if other people are intelligent. Oh yeah, 100%. I used to have these kinds of talks with my bio mom, and she was open about things, and I learned a lot from her, but she was a terrible person and has since left my life, but these talks impacted me a lot. That's kind of sad, you know? Oh, people's lives are ultimately pretty tragic things. We're all just trying to cope with lives that don't make a whole lot of sense, filled with heartache. Well, if there's ever been a better time to fucking play Days and Days, I ain't never heard about it. Oh, shit. Are you stuck? This is the best part of every folk musician's set, by the way. The tuning station, or the section. The rotation yap sessions can be pretty legendary too if the circle is dope. Oh, dude, yes. Yes, dude, if you've got a blunt going around and the people involved, dude, honestly, I'll tell you guys what, this kind of vibe, what we're doing right now, literally kind of reminds me, the closest thing it reminds me of are the kinds of conversations and hangouts that I used to have with my old friend Colin and one of my exes and a couple of our friends. We used to sit around at the house that me and said ex rented and get fucking high and just talk about life and play music, watch movies sometimes. But we'd always have this kind of low lighting going on, usually a salt lamp and sometimes like a candle, a salt lamp, and a smaller lamp. Oh, thank you, Book Blaze, for the $4.99. You fucking sweetie. You are so fucking kind. I appreciate you. Days for Days by your sick, nasty skills. Aw, thank you. This is my rotation for tonight. Fuck yeah. Outer Wilds vibes. Fuck yeah. I say that too much. I'm sorry, y'all. Breakfast is straight out the medicine cabinet, a remedy for the aftermath of a habit, and sometimes it's the ones who try to help that hurt the most. Feel like you're playing tug of war and I'm the rope, and you keep on pulling and you keep on pulling, and I'm gonna lose my goddamn mind. I'm gonna lose my mind. To the back of a cave, to the top of a mountain where no one can hear me, no one can see me, so I don't have to deal with them and they don't have to deal with me. Cause relationships are overrated. Maybe I'm just tired and jaded, but I'm tired, but I'm sorry that I love myself more than I love you. So call it misanthropic, call it masturbation. Either way, it's a solo operation. I'm just far more comfortable alone. Cause people are ugly and people are hateful and rude and disgusting and greedy, ungrateful. The world would be so much better off without us. There's an empathy tied to the best of me. I'm so tired of you talking my ear off about all your problems I just can't fix. Don't appreciate this excess company. Your incessant rambling reminds me of why I'm better off alone. So call it misanthropic, call it masturbation. Either way, it's a solo operation. I'm just far more comfortable alone. Cause people are ugly and people are grateful and people are rude and disgusting, ungrateful. The world would be so much better off without us. So swallow a bullet or a handful of pills. We're all graves in training and there's graves left to fill. We touch ourselves to make us feel like we're not just mistakes. We teach ourselves just to make us feel like we're not mistakes. My breakfast is straight out the medicine cabinet. I don't know if I got even half of the lyrics to that song correct, but I tried. This reminds me of when I'm 17 beers deep singing in my basement. Hey, that sounds like a good time to me, my friend. Misanthropic Drunken Loner by Days and Days. You're so talented singing and playing simultaneously, so difficult. I don't know about that. But, you know. Hey, I'm glad that you... you know what? If you say so, I will take your word for it, and I appreciate it. That's not even one of my best songs, though. But that is a good song. Like the smell of cigarettes on your flower dress. I want you under my fingernails. I want you in my sleep and in my dreams. I wake up spooning my pillow, letting fans sweaty. Please don't tell my friends. Addicted to cigarettes. At first I didn't let myself inhale, but smoke got through. So did you, and now every burned hole smells like home. And I know it's killing me, but that still won't stop me. 'Cause now we We smell the same, but you still kill me faster. I don't mind that you lie sometimes, because I lie too, 'cause I'm just like you. I don't mind that you lie sometimes, because I lie too, 'cause I'm just like you. I don't mind that you lie sometimes, because I lie too, 'cause I'm just like you. I'm like 8 high noons deep smoking in my bathroom, bro. Kelly is living the fucking life right now. Kelly is living the fucking life. That is one of the top skills ever. Is it really? I've never done it, but I remember my friends had to when we were gearing up for a talent show. They told me it was hard, and I believe them. W song choices. Aw, you guys are so fucking sweet, man. I've really managed to cultivate a wonderful audience over here, and I love you guys so immensely. I can't decide which note that should be. There we go. When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we see. No, I won't be afraid. No, I won't be afraid. Just as long as you stand by me. So darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand now. Stand by me. Stand by me. If the sky that we look upon should crumble and fall, or the mountain should crumble to the sea, I won't cry, I won't cry, no, I won't shed a tear, just as long as you stand by me. So darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, darling, stand by me. Stand by me. trouble, won't you stand by me? Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand now. Stand by me. Stand by me. Yeah. I'm insane. Something's so loose upstairs. Well, if you're going through postpartum, that would explain why. It's not always the life. Aw, I'm sorry, Kelly. I think I might play one song and then I'm going to get off of here. I might play one more and then I got to get off here. I got to go. Anybody got any requests? Sam Cooke, Summertime. Don't know that one, unfortunately. Unfortunately. Actually, the song I was just thinking about is an incredibly obscure song. I could play it, but I know none of you guys would know it. Aw, Kelly. W song. Thank you for making me cry. I had weird spiritual-ish. Well, you know, I have been told that I have a talent for playing to people's needs. I'm not trying to make myself sound like some fucking psychic or whatever, but I have been told that I have a talent for figuring out what people need out of a musical bit and just coming to that naturally. So, you know, I'm glad that I could help yet another person with that. I don't know, that's cool to me. It makes me feel like I'm more empathetic than people would give me credit for, given my autism, right? Because there's this misconception about autistic people that we can't feel empathy or some shit like that. And it's absurd. We just have trouble with social cues. There's some other stuff that comes with it, like I think there are definitely some effects on, like, in the empathy department. I think maybe autistics that are empathetic maybe have a more robotic way of looking at it, if that makes sense. It's maybe not as visceral for us as it is for a neurotypical person, but I don't know, it feels pretty visceral to me sometimes, so who the fuck knows? You felt that shit, bitch. Yeah, I did. For real. Because we were tapped in. I'm a total empath and a very high-functioning autistic that actually can socially perform, but it's overwhelming. Yeah, I would say I mean, Kelly, it honestly sounds like I have a lot in common, at least in that regard. I don't like to call myself an empath because I think there have been certain people that have misused that term and made it kind of... They made it seem like it's some, like, giant badge of honor or something, or like they'll use it to excuse bad behavior. So I don't like applying it to myself, but yes, basically I'm the same exact way. I cannot help but feel other people's, like, emotional state, you know? When I enter a room, I'm very perceptive of that kind of thing. I can instantly tell if somebody's, like, miffed about something, and I've always been able to. It's good to find solace in hard times like these. The guitar provides that. Thank you. I appreciate that. And that's, you know, I have probably done more activism with my music than I have with any other fucking single thing, honestly. I've played music at a bunch of rainbow gatherings and inspired what I hope was a lot of... Well, I can tell you this, it inspired a lot of revolutionary conversations in the aftermath. And, you know, that makes me think that there really is something to this shit, you know? There really is something to making music. The message on my guitar is actually true, if you think about it. This machine does kill fascists. It kills fascists by making their ideology completely unappealing, by making it obvious that it's not right. Music is so awesome. Music can change the world. I absolutely love playing all types of string instruments. I would love to get into more of them. I can play banjo pretty well, and I like that one, but guitar is my main, obviously. You guys want to hear some traditional Irish folk music? Oh, oh, Father dear, I often hear. This is not right, I can hear it. Sometimes I hate having almost perfect pitch. I hate that I can hear when my guitar is off. Well, I guess I don't really, because it means that I don't play with out-of-tune instruments, you know. I can tell when something sounds not right, you know. But still. I wish I could be one of those folk punk musicians that just doesn't give a shit. Because you don't have to be talented and have like a tuner and shit in folk punk. You just have to scream your little heart out, baby. And that's what I like about it, god damn it. But I'm too fucking obsessive to do it. Anyway. Empathy really is the key. So much of hate is spurned by spite and misunderstanding. Oh, 100%. The inability to put yourself in someone else's shoes, basically. Oh, Father dear, I often hear you speak of Aaron's eyes. Her lofty seas, her valleys green, her mountains rude and wild. You say she is a noble land wherein a prince might dwell. So why did we abandon it for the reason to be tell? Oh child, I loved our native land with energy and pride, till a blight came over all my crops and our sheep and cattle died. The rent and taxes were to pay, I could not them redeem. And that's the first reason that we left old Skibbereen. 'Tis well I do remember that dark November day, when the bailiff and the landlord came to chase us all away. They lit the roof on fire with their cursed English spleen. And that's the cruel reason we left old Skibbereen. Where mother broke upon the moat with the desolation round. She fainted in her anguish and see the desolation round, and woke not but faded away into immortal dreams. And that's another cruel reason we left old Skibbereen. Oh, son, you were but 2 years old, and feeble was your frame. I could not leave you with my friends, for you bore your father's name. So I wrapped you in my coat of mud and fled the night unseen. And we heaved a sigh and waved goodbye to better Skibbereen. Oh, Father dear, and the day will come when the home will heed our call, when Irishmen, both tall and strong, will heed us and our call. Oh, be the lad to lead the van beneath the flag of green. We'll raise a cry and let loud the sigh, revenge for Skibbereen. That's a very plodding song. If you'd like, I can play a faster Irish folk music for you, but that one's fucking hard, bro. That one's intense. The imagery in it is pretty fucked up. Thrash grass, exactly. Let me get Grateful Dead or Angel from Montgomery, either version, or a Little Feathered Indian, or that Samsung Mountain Man that went viral with the banjo. Yeah, exactly. Something like Richmond, north of Richmond. Ooh, I could do something like that. And I was born on this mountain a long time ago. Well, they knocked down the timber and stripped mine the coal. When you lay down in the morning, when you rose up in the morning, before it was light, and you go down in the dark hole, come back up at night. I was born on this mountain's my home. And she holds me and keeps me from worrying and woe. Now they took everything that she gave, now they're gone. But I will die on this mountain's my home. And I was born on this mountain, but now I am old. And I knew every holler, every cool swimming hole.